Yo, what is good, Moody?
What's
We
up? This is
are. Go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
I was gonna
Already.
say it's a streak of four or five, something like that.
Nah, this is episode 6, bro. Look at the top left.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Episode 6. That's a whole month and 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That is a whole month. So I think that's official. Like we're not official yet. I mean, we're official enough. I saw we're getting some podcast streams. It seems like possibly. I don't know if that's just me and like
Yeah.
literally just me. It just clicking on
Yeah.
our
Like
shit.
going back to the videos.
But hey, like I said, like I told you off pod, like we're gonna be soon. We're gonna be everywhere you could find us. But what's up? We are back for another week of wrestling talk. But first, before we get into this wrestling talk, let's start off with our Sunday Percy's. And I'll let you start off first.
Oh yeah, mine. So this has been sitting. I got it under time jump news also because you know how we just like let sit in our queue forever.
Yeah,
Um, like this is on my watch later for like I don't know 4 or 5 months or however old these videos are. But
yeah,
I
I got a
finally
lot of
watched
those.
them, and yeah, I got like mine is like 500 and something. But yeah, I got the God dropped the new animal updates. Like we in Earth version 3.0 or 3.5 since I've been here. Like in the last 30 years. There was this thing called a sea pig, like
Mm.
which is it's a fucking sea cucumber. It's first of all, it's pink and translucent. Like you can't see all the way through it, but it's like this soft pink. It's a sea cucumber, but it got the stubbiest little legs to it. It looks like Dr. Seuss at the bottom of the ocean. I mean, I know we kind of knew that already, but like watching them pull this shit out of the ocean, and it's like, yo, why would we ever go in there? You know what I'm saying? Why? Like, why?
I mean, it makes you think because again, like we obviously hear that there's so much of the ocean that we don't
Yeah,
know, right?
yeah,
Like we barely even know probably what like 5% of it
not even.
of
Yeah,
like the
something. Yeah,
like that's how deep that is. And then just think about like the other way of like going into space,
hmm
right? It's just like we're in that middle plane where it's like, man, we feel like we know so much, but we really don't know anything.
gotcha. We don't know shit. Like it is, the Lord's year of 2024, and these freaking Australians are off the coast of New Zealand was like, oh yeah, we went out fishing and pulled out 100 new species in this one net. Like, nigga, what? Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, no, bro. Like, y'all can have that. Like,
I'm good,
but
man. I
but
am
either way,
good.
yeah.
Even,
Watch
like,
the
in
video.
Finding
Speaking
Nemo
off of
when,
this,
like, they go into, like, the sub pits, like, where it's, like, pitch
oh
black, and
yeah,
then they come up with,
hmm
like, the it's just like, yo, they got if like, that's a real fish, and it's like,
yeah.
that's real, that's wild.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
the angler fish. Yeah, and that's the one that we know about because it's like so distinct.
yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it got the little lure for a forehead and everything, and it's like, bruh. But yeah, that shit is weird as fuck. Watch those videos when we done with this. It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
would definitely add those to my watch laters. Anything
Yeah, what you
PBS,
got?
and was that DW on the other one?
Yeah, DW.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know what DW is, but I've
that's
seen their
that's a
videos, and, like, they're pretty, like, educationally, like,
yeah. It's
respectful.
Nazi Germany. Doing their uh
Is it?
still
Yeah.
paying their taxes. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's German like PBS basically
PBS.
is
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Alright, alright. I'll get into mine. So I watched Alien, what's the joint
Romulus,
called? Romulus this
good.
past week, and it's pretty good, pretty good. I gave it, like, a 3.5 on
Okay.
Letterboxd, so I said it's, worth the trip. Because, it's still an alien movie at the end of the day where it's has the setting of it, the sound and the visuals and like a lot of it of how they filmed it. You can tell just when they're filming it that this is a lot of practical
Yeah,
that they're actually walking through sets and they're walking through a lot of this is not, you know,
yeah.
uh CG. Just is not as good as the first two movies, in my opinion. And I up until watching Romulus, I hadn't seen the second Aliens. I've only seen
hmm
the first one. I have that on DVD, and so I went back. I watched the first Alien. Love that all time classic. And then I watched Aliens for the first time, and
Even better.
it's a great movie. I still put Alien above Aliens. I think Alien, the first one, is like a cinematic achievement. Like that movie is just amazingly made, especially for the time period that was made in like 78 or 79, whenever it came out. It's just to be able to
79.
do what they did to make that movie way ahead of its time. Way ahead of
Mhm.
time. Like you could watch it today and be like, wow, like that's an impressive movie. But as I was watching Aliens, I saw little similarities to because it was made by James Cameron to Terminator,
Mhm.
especially Terminator 2. Saw a lot of Sarah Connor within Ripley. And definitely some of the Avatar franchise, especially the most recent Avatar. What was it, Way of Water? Where they had that
Yeah.
little non-speaking kid. The
Mhm.
little girl in Aliens is kind of reminiscent of it. But as I bring this up because I got a who you got. Because I said Ripley in Aliens definitely reminds me of a precursor to what Sarah Connor would be in Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yeah.
But I think Sarah Connor is just a much more evolved, better version of of Ripley.
Yeah.
That if I had to pick one, I'm taking Sarah Connor over Ripley any day. Sarah Connor, like
I
they're both badasses, but
in
Sarah
what?
Connor is overall just like Sarah Connor is just a better character as a film character to me. I like
Mhm.
her arc of just like you see her in the first Terminator and she's just this regular waitress just living her life,
Mhm.
and then a whole bunch of stuff gets thrown onto her. And then you don't see her in real life in our lifetime for like another what, 6 years until Terminator 2 comes out. And then the first time you see her, she's doing the little pull-up bars in the mental insane asylum and stuff like that. Like complete badass. Not the woman that you expected that she was before. And you know what I'm saying? So I feel like if shit was to go down, give me Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
And then
I
just over
mean,
as a movie character, I love Ripley. Ripley's still a badass. Sarah Connor is just top tier. She's
okay.
presidential if Ripley is top shelf.
I mean, they're both so legendary that I feel like this is like a Bill Russell and like Michael Jordan conversation. Like you said, like she's the precursor to Sarah Connor. There
Oh
wouldn't be a
yeah.
Sarah Connor if it wasn't
They
for
literally
Ripley.
have the dude
So
from the first Terminator movie that like impregnates Sarah
mhm.
Connor with John in Aliens.
Yeah,
And then
man.
obviously like I also wonder it's like obviously I have all this movie history of watching all the Terminator films, and then I didn't grow up. I wasn't born when Aliens came out. So, but the first Terminator was out. Aliens came out in like 86. Terminator came out in 84. So there is a lot of inspiration of like you could see it feels like you could see James Cameron was what he wanted to do with Ripley, and then he kind of was able to do it, but then he was able to really push the envelope by the 90s because we've evolved, at least hopefully, in that
Yeah,
even not far, but even in that 6 year span or 4 year span, you've evolved to be like, okay, we could show a woman in a such badass way and not have her attached to a hip to a kid. But
yeah, yeah.
either
I
way,
got you.
that I thought that was an interesting thought because I was like, there's a lot of similarities in these characters, and it makes sense because it's James Cameron, and you
Hmm.
can see a lot of his films. You can see a lot of the experimentation and like the networking, I guess, of his movies as you kind of watch through his filmography. So overall, great movies. Even the Romulus didn't hit my expectations for what I was hoping it would, but again, not some. I haven't seen all the Alien movies. I've only seen the first two and this third one. This is a good addition to the franchise.
That's what's up. I love the Alien franchise, so I'm sure I'll watch it once it comes to Hulu or something.
Yeah, yeah. I forget who puts it out, so I have to check that out and let you know which streaming service is going to come on to. But nonetheless, let's get into the show.
Doors opening. Step back to allow customers to exit.
Cutting through the crowd is the Habasha Hayes, Samson.
French fries, bro. Moody off the top rope. This is the Wrestling Re-Up podcast.
Weekly stroll through the avenue of wrestling. Hope that came through clear. pick up, everyone. I listen back to those on the podcast just to
Mhm.
see if they come through. Sometimes they come through, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's the blending of like the audio with the live
Oh yeah.
that like sometimes like our voices don't come through as clear. So that's why we probably got to pre-record it if we want
Mhm.
it to come through clearly. But yes, we are back. We are the Wrestling Re-Up Podcast. It's the Habasha Samson, my tag team partner Moody, the French Fro. We are here to talk about the week of wrestling of what 8/12/2024.
Yep.
Pretty tame week, I would say. Pretty tame
Middle of
week
August.
overall. Yeah. We're school's getting started back up for most people, colleges and stuff. Vacations, people taking their last vacations, and so we're 2 weeks out, or at least 2 weeks out from Bash in Berlin. We got
And
All In next week,
yep.
Capital Collision in like 3 weeks. So a
Mm.
lot of wrestling in the coming weeks ahead of us. At least premium live events coming ahead of us. But for right now, we're on the road, and we can kind of start off, I guess, straight to the flagship store. But I guess this happened this was announced during the flagship store. So I guess we'll talk about it beforehand. But Dakota Kai is out for an extended period of time. I think it's at 8 to 10 weeks with a torn meniscus. She was attacked last week as she was supposed to have a match with I forget who she was supposed to have a match, but she ended up getting attacked backstage, and then Io Scott ended up taking over. I think she got attacked by Bailey, not Bailey,
Mm.
Sonya, and
Yeah.
and her squad. Their new squad called like the Pure Energy
Fusion
Faction.
Collective.
Yeah,
Pure
Pure Fusion
Fusion
Collective.
Yeah.
What a name. What a name. But yes, Dakota Kai's out for 8 to 10 weeks. And it sucks because, she just came back like not too long ago, almost a year to this date. And
Yeah.
so, with what was it, ACL tears or something like that, like a severe knee
Mhm.
injury. So, like knee injuries are kind of one of those things where, once you have it once, like you're a little bit more susceptible to catching something else again. So it's unfortunate that she is not going to be on TV at least for a few weeks, but probably out of action for at least the next Seth? What's 8 months? 4 months? Damn.
You said what?
No,
8 weeks?
eight
She
weeks is
said
2 months. Yeah, 2
2 months. Yeah.
months. So that's still some time. And
But
then there's rehab, and so
it's a pay-per-view cycle, or like a cycle and a half. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but at least it's not an ACL, because it's just like her and oh man, her name is escaping me right now. I know her nickname is the girl with the
Tegan Knox.
shiniest wizard. Tegan Knox. There we go. Because both of them in NXT tore their ACLs. And I know Tegan tore hers twice in NXT, like before she even got to the main roster. That's why she got that
Mhm.
brace on. That's a legit brace that's like holding her fucking leg together. So you just hope that it doesn't continue, obviously. Obviously like better athletes than us. So it's not like I doubt them like taking care of themselves. So it's just unfortunate, obviously.
Yeah, it definitely is unfortunate. Hopefully, again, there's a way for her to like once she has her surgery and she feels comfortable enough to at least be putting weight on it, or at least coming out on crutches if she feels like. I think we're in a time now that like people still have TV time and be mic workers and not necessarily have to be physical. And so
Yeah.
and not say that they can't, like Io Sky and Kairi Sane can't be, just themselves. I mean, they cut a promo package this week. Not even promo package, but they cut a promo this week. And it just shows you how like we are getting, more comfortable with just reading captions, because like
Hmm.
we do it whether it be watching Game of Thrones because you're just so into the dialogue and you don't want to miss a word because you have to be so attentive to it, or just a lot of people watch anime. You know what I'm saying? So having the ability to read captions is not a problem. So having them cut promos in Japanese is no problem. The same way someone can cut a promo in Spanish and not be a problem. Even if it's Spanglish, like I'm cool when like someone like Andrade or Santos or anybody just be like so passionate in their promos that you just get out of the English and then you just get into straight Spanish. And it's like, I picked up on some words. I can feel the essence of what you're putting down, but I don't know what you just said. But I feel it and I got you. I'm with you. So
I think
Um,
the only
but
difference there is that like obviously Spanish is a romantic language like English is. So on the ear, I think we can like just recognize it. Like you said, we can feel that passion more or feel that whatever they saying, you know what I'm saying, with
yeah,
their energy and stuff, as compared to Japanese. That's a completely different, language system.
it's a lot more
So it's like
staccato
when,
into it, and when you add the staccato-ness of like
yeah,
the language,
exactly.
it's very more like. I mean, it's still it's
English
passion.
ears specifically. Yeah.
It's passion, but it's just more passion that is more like aggression
Yeah. And we have no idea what you're saying.
yeah, we're like, and maybe his like in Spanish, it's a little bit more because it's Spanish has a little bit more elasticity with its words and its phrasing
Yeah.
and things of that nature that you can add to. It makes it a lot more smoother. So you could be saying some real slick stuff, but it's like, oh man, like you could feel the spiciness to it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
it's like a spiciness compared to like a stab wound. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm being like getting stabbed when I'm listening to Japanese. Like,
Yeah, okay.
man, that hurt. The other one's just like, this is sizzling.
But yeah, that's what it's literally that's been holding back Japanese wrestlers has been like, just the promo skills, like historically. I mean,
Yeah.
because the accent is so difficult for them, you know what I'm saying? Like to speak English or for us to understand Japanese either way. So
That's not
yeah,
even that,
not
man.
to
That's just
be
catering
not
to
to
middle of
be
America. That's catering to middle of America. That's
that's
like,
where I was about to
I
go.
watch the TV. I want to hear English. It's
English,
like, bro,
bro, you stole the words I was about to say because I was like, because the argument would be like, this is highbrow elitism, but how stupid does that sound? Like you gotta read subtitles, like that's highbrow. Like I don't want to fucking like read no shit.
because people don't
Like
like reading. You know what I'm saying? Like,
stupid.
but let's get into the flagship store, and talk about what we each picked up from here. And I'll start off because I gotta put some respect on my name, and my primo is his name is Pete Dunne. Not Butch, but Pete Dunne. And I'll start this by bringing up what I said last week on our pod. On our pod. And we could do this with the full screen because this is our clip, so we can get strike down. So let's go. That story for Pete Dunne is famous is like, bro, you call me your boy, but how you gonna call your boy Butch for 2 years? You know my name was Pete.
Yeah, right. We from the same block, bro. Like, what are you talking?
You call me Butch, bro. You made me act like I got no goddamn sense, like I can't speak. And like I was some rabid dog. Come on, son. You ain't got love for me. So that's my story for Pete. But
Yeah.
let's go. Let's go. Hate him. Oh no. What is happening? Oh, sorry.
You all right?
I was clicking on the wrong thing. Verbatim. Pete Dunne has a little segment with Jackie Redmond, I believe. You know, those ones where they're just kind of sitting in the stands before the show starts. And she brings up, like, you have this beef with Sheamus and stuff like that. And she brought up the name Butch, and he immediately shut that down and literally said the exact same thing for 2 years. I don't even remember if it was 2 years. I just said a number. And the fact that I went back and looked up the clip and I said 2 years, it shows you that somebody in WWE is listening to this pod. Is listening to this pod. So give myself prop. I loved it all. It wasn't the only thing Pete done this week, but I love the fact that, again, niggas remember. And again, you can't be letting this man be Butch for 2 years. He called him Butch for 2 years and made him act like a dog. Yeah, oh, hold on, back Butch, bad Butch.
Yeah, he was doing the Scrappy Doo. He was doing the Scrappy Doo gimmick, basically.
So
that's what Butch was.
I'm glad that like this gives me more confidence that Pete Dunne is going to come out on looking good, and maybe spoiler alert for when we get to the bodega, maybe in both situations on the main roster and on NXT, or let's not say the main roster, but on Raw and on NXT. So that's my primo with Pete Dunne. What say you?
I say, first of all, I agree, with the name Pete Dunne, but maybe you call. We don't have anybody verifying us right now, so like, hey, if you call it, somebody must be watching us at WWE, but we ain't got to check that. So, but Yeah. For
There's
Pete,
more things I
I
could
mean,
call
it's
out
been
from this show
that
that
was
I know
that
they're listening.
was that was the equivalent of his like Shorty G run to me. You know what I'm saying? Like when Chad had Shorty G, that was
Yeah.
his Shorty G was Butch. So just now that he's back on track as the bruiserweight, like the UK champion from like the black and gold era that I remember,
hmm
like that's the Pete Dunne that I love. You know what I'm saying? So I got no complaints. You know what I'm saying? Put him on my TV screen some more like that. I love it.
Saying
And
he's
once
looking
again, the
good,
bitter
and
end is
he's speaking on the mic and everything. Like I'm like, yo, put some respect on Pete's Dunne name. How old is Pete Dunne?
oh,
Getting back to our 30s and 40s conversation.
I would think he's probably in his prime, like 28, I'm guessing.
30.
30. Okay.
30. I don't know if he's turning 31 or when is his birthday. He's turning 31 in November. His birthday's 2 days before yours.
Well, okay. That's what's up.
So shout
Scorpio
out to Pete
Brody.
Dunne. You get my primo for Raw on the flagship store this week. Let you go next. Would you pick up?
Okay. Well, I just got some mid out of there, but Braun is definitively IC champion, which is it was a great match. 2 out of 3 falls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we knew that it was
I've
gonna.
been itching for a 2 out of 3 fall, so I enjoyed the fact that we just got that type of match.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
and I think
just
to your
being,
point, it does definitely do add like a definitive point to Braun Breaker being the IC champ. So I think it did its job.
yeah, exactly.
It's a mid for me
Because
as well, mid rising. Sorry.
yeah, because it could have been, you know, 2 or not 2 months ago, but like at least a month ago, like you know, we were already calling for him to be champion,
Mm-hmm.
and arguably, I believe that you said that it was going down for you in that moment because yeah, you said you didn't care or something
Yeah.
at their first pay-per-view, and I was like, ah, yeah, they're just stretching it out. But either way, I think this like was a perfect, you know, kind of weekly main event match, just because I
Mm-hmm.
mean we love both guys already, titles on the line, everything, so it's perfect to like hold the exclamation point for the week. I would say, you know, for Raw.
Yeah.
Um, and the match was just great because now we, you know, we know the history. It's a very current story, and this chapter has ended. But you know, they pulled out all the stops from knowing each other in recent history. Like, of course, Sammy jumping over spears like normal, and um, you know, Braun actually winning with a spear. You know, catching Sammy off the top rope. So
Yeah.
that explosion, you know what I'm saying? But it was definitely the best thing in the pack this week for from the flagship store for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely from a match quality standpoint, I definitely do think it's the best probably match they probably had on the show. I would need to look through the card just to verify that, but it's definitely the highlight for me as far as match quality. I had it mid rising for the fact that like we obviously know that he's not dropping this title, but I do think it gets to what I wanted to see from Braun Breaker. That
Hmm.
like I think we got in little spurts in this Sammy feud, but I do think this match kind of encapsulates that. Like, yeah, okay, Braun Breaker is something to to be taken seriously. Not to say he wasn't before, but again, a lot of times it just came off of like just feats of strength. And now it's like, okay, you went through 2 out of 3 falls. You, of course, you lost the first fall, but you had to win back to go get the second and the third fall. And then on top of that, the way the match ended was pretty dope. Now, with those spears and some of that stuff, it does feel like, again, we're kind of hitting marks, as far as like, just kind of getting shit off to get shit off. But it looks good. And I do think I think the more he is tested in longer battles, I think the more serious and the more benefit it does for Braun Breaker. So if we keep getting matches like this, like it'll give me confidence to see like what Ilya will be able to get out of him
Yeah, and
when he comes up to that match.
mhm. And not for nothing, like I'm just ready to like cheer Braun already because obviously he's playing the heel with Sammy
Hmm.
because Sammy is a eternal baby face, kind of like Rey Mysterio. Unless he's like even when he's being a heel, it's like goofy bloodline heel Sammy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean when he said like, "Oh, is there any dogs in the house?" It's like, yeah, motherfucker. Like people are gonna be barking. Like they ready like for Braun to just be on his run right now. So if that's him just being like an a tweener badass, that's fine. But you want to, or I want to cheer Braun right now. So it's good to have Sammy out of the picture. So you don't have that like internal clashing feeling because, like I said, Sammy's the classic baby face that like there's nothing you can do with him,
Yeah.
or you can't budge his character at this point. I mean, so uh but with Ilya, like even still, like I think Ilya could play heel, but I mean the way that Braun is set up right now, I don't see that. But it would be interesting in the future. Um, face Braun. I hope this is a face turn. Or I think it could be for sure.
I
I
think
want
it's
it to
too
be.
early for a face turn. I think with
It
Braun, I
is,
think it's like
but
you gotta have him naturally win the crowd over for him to be a face. So like I
with
think like he's not gonna do anything intentionally to make him a face, make himself a face. It's just like to your point, it's just gonna be so hard to be like you are going to be booing him, but you're doing it with a tongue in cheek, knowing that like we really like this guy. It's gonna be Rhea Ripley esque. I feel like.
okay.
Like you're supposed to hate Rhea. You were supposed to hate Rhea, but you like her.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Now she's already like Rhea's already crossed that line at this point
Yeah,
because you're not booing
she's
her.
crossed that point. But like even in that time, like during Judgment Day, you're not supposed to like, but you like them because you like Rhea Ripley, even though she's supposed to be a heel.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Like same way
That's
like
just
Tiffany, like people like Tiffany even though she's a heel. And I think at
yeah, for
that point,
sure.
it's like, they don't necessarily have to do anything to push themselves to be a face. Is that like the fans will naturally just make you a face.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I see a Braun Breaker is kind of that ilk.
and I guess we are. Well, we're saying the same thing. I'm just saying that like I guess I would like to see it earlier. That's all because like I said, you have to play heel with Sammy. You know what I mean? And for it to be done, it's like all right, he can do whatever he wants now. He has clear pastures. You know what I'm saying? At this
Yeah,
point in time. So
I mean,
that's all I had to say
if
about
that's
that.
the case, like I said, I guess the way I would picture is way it's like how quickly can he get the fans over, and
Well,
like, and I guess
that
like
my premise is that he already has.
if he's talking his shit and is backing it up every match and giving you like pretty much Sheamus level of matches like of bangers against bangers, it's like again like when he comes out and he says like I'm the best, there's nothing to question. Like so, I think that's
Mhm,
where the point is. Like you got to get to a point where like you can't question his promos when he comes out.
mhm.
Like it might sound arrogant, but it's like if you do it, you do it. So who's to say? Like Roman could come out every week and talk about I'm the head of the table, I'm the tribal chief. But then if you keep backing it up, at some point it's like it's no longer just him speaking; it's facts.
Yeah,
I think that's how like if you want it to happen quickly, I think it's just like dependent on like, and you're not doing something intentionally story wise to like make him face. It's like you gotta sell him over with the fans as quickly as possible. That like this guy's not to be played with. Kind of like Gunther, maybe.
hmm.
So, any more thoughts on the
No, we are
IC
at.
title?
Well, no, I'm glad Braun's got it.
All right,
That's it.
I'll get into my other mid, and it kind of also leads into my shake. Um, Again, I called out that I like that we got a 2 out of 3 falls match. I've been itching for one of those for a good minute, and I was surprised to see that we got a Texas Tornado tag match. And I was like, "Yo, when the last time we had a Texas Tornado match on like WWE television? It's been a minute. It's been a
Uh,
good minute." So just to see that match just happen, the match itself between Alpha Academy and American Made, it was a good match for what it was. The shake in there is that Ivy Nile turns on Maxine, and we talked about this and like the draft episodes. It's like, are they gonna remember any of this, or are they just gonna just kind of throw it to the side and just kind of move forward? So they kind of threw it away a little bit, but they sprinkled in just enough. Be like, all right, yeah, but there was a little bit of storyline plot that we had before that we can kind of tie up just to make it
mhm.
clear that these things aren't just happening out of randomness. So, um, yeah, shout out Texas Tornado matches. We need more of those. Shout out to Ivy Now and Maxine actually also getting a storyline within this storyline of men being men.
Yeah, because
So,
But I believe formerly Ivy was definitely calling herself Maxine's friend. She like saved her from a beatdown, or somebody was
Yeah,
bullying Maxine backstage. I
Gable.
remember. Oh yeah,
It was
yeah, that's right.
it was
Yeah,
Gable. So she was like, "You gay? Like, why are you taking this disrespect from him?" She was doing everything to like get him
yeah, yeah,
away
yeah,
from Maxine, from Gable.
yeah, yeah. And even just having that little bit extra of like this episode, trying to recruit her,
Hmm.
basically again, and I guess Ivy being like, I mean, I assume this, her motivation must be like, bitch, I'm trying to look out for you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's simple enough, and obviously, I mean, we know Maxine ain't like sharpened in the ring, so it's interesting. I'm
She
interested.
will look good in duress when Ivy Nile is choking her out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because
Ivy
that's where I
Nile will be
wonder,
able to
like,
just be like the super, technical wrestler and do all the submission moves, and then Maxine will just be like, ah.
yeah.
We're gonna be making Felt look bad for Maxine, and I think it's gonna come out looking good.
Hmm.
And I think it boils down to also like Maxine. I mean, not Maxine. Ivy Nile before the match was like she came up to Maxine. She was like, giving you one more, you don't have to be with Gabe. You don't have to do this, blah, blah, blah. You can come with us, this, that, and the third. And Maxine was like, nah, I got to stick with my family. And then Ivy now was like, I figured you'd say that. And it's the same thing that I said weeks ago. It was like, why would she leave Alpha Academy? Like, she's been with them from the jump. That's
Yeah.
effectively her family. And so it just makes sense for her. It's like, well, if you're going to stick with your family, I'm sticking with my family. So she might not agree with Gable, but if that's what the boys want to do, that's what the boys want to do.
Yeah.
And maybe it ends up that it's like they realize that it's like, let them be boys and bicker and argue, and we could still be friends in a tag team. But I just like the fact that they're just not being left for dry, and there was some like, oh yeah, even if it was, hey, let's just grab something just so we have some type of connective tissue. At least you did something. And so this is gonna be it's gonna be within the bigger scope of Alpha Academy versus American Made. I'm definitely interested to see what happens with this Ivy now and Maxine.
Okay. That's funny because I think you literally answered the question I was about to ask you with that last statement because we were focusing in on, Ivy Nile and Maxine, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we see that's their little like notch of story, but where does that fit? Like within time on a show or like the program, just
Hmm.
because it's hard for me to believe that like those two would get any like extended time right now, at least. You still got to build that up, I would think, to just for them even getting in the ring together. So
There's
just
definitely
you're
some
talking
bad
about it's
blood
just
matches lining up here.
yeah, yeah, the expanded within the expanded group dynamics of Alpha Academy versus American Made. It's like, okay, yeah, that's
Hmm.
obvious because that's a and the obvious, Chad Gable link. So
Do you think Alpha Academy changes their name?
I don't think they have to, but I'll say no right now. I still like Alpha Academy.
I have
Like,
some
I mean,
I have some thoughts on like what could be booked. We don't have this on our cards, but just thinking through with the stuff that's happening with Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, and uh
mhm,
Odyssey
the
Jones,
Final
and
Testament.
the Final Testament. Is there a way where Xavier Woods ends up teaming up with Otis and Tozawa and kind of coming up with like their own kind of faction?
Mhm. I mean,
Because like
like I said,
Xavier has like his moments with both of those guys, and he's like, "Oh, Tozawa, that's
yeah, yeah,
nasty." And so like it just seems like maybe Xavier is like disappointed that like Kofi seems ready to kind of embrace a new member of the New Day when it's like, yo, what happened to Big E? That's New
mhm,
Day. This ain't New Day. And it's not like Kofi is called Odyssey Jones New Day. Like he says, like the New Day, me and Xavier Woods are going to team up with Odyssey Jones. So it's like he doesn't include him in the New Day, but you can see Xavier's doing some great acting that
yeah.
he's not
Greatest supporting right now. I'll go with
he's
that.
not entirely 100% with this. And I'm not I see where they're doing. It feels a little too scripted and intentional that I hope is not the direction that they're going with. But it's curious. If I had to put it anywhere, I put this somewhere. I probably put this in medium mid rising.
Yeah. Um,
Xavier is doing a lot of the
it's
lifting on this.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and which he should be because he's the one who's like been there. You know, Kofi was out injured, and like the whole program was worked like more towards Xavier anyway.
Yeah.
So like it's a slow burn. Like obviously, you know, I was cooked on this a while ago, but it's like okay, we were waiting for Kofi to get back. Clearly, it's like the second he was back on to or you know back from injury, it's like all right, cool. Like now this story is making sense. But um yeah, I still got it in. I have it in Shake right now, just that. But
Yeah.
that Shake would be Xavier Woods' greatest supporting actor of Raw. That's what I would probably would have wrote in Notion Doc for sure. Because yeah, it has been his facial expressions. You know what I'm saying? He's doing the
Yeah.
heavy lifting. It makes sense in kayfabe because Odyssey Jones don't even know them like that, so he don't know Xavier. Like he ain't used to his
what I struggle
mannerisms.
with the storyline is like, is Kofi this oblivious to his actions? And I'm like, I can't believe it. It just feels that's where it feels a little
Yeah,
too
yeah.
scripted. I'm like,
Yeah,
Kofi is not this oblivious to what he is doing and how rude he's coming off. Just cutting off
Yeah.
Xavier and like just like doing things. So like that's where I'm like, this is definitely out of character within Kofi. That I don't believe that. It definitely feels like they're leaning into a split. But if I had to do my fantasy booking, and I'm hoping that I can clip this if I'm right. I think
not if you right. no, we only.
no, I'm saying like no, I'm not saying I'm
right.
going to change it or anything. I'm not going to go back on my word. I'm not having a retraction like somebody talked about earlier this week. I'm just saying that like I'm hoping I'm right that I can.
Shit. Way to step on it. But all right.
I'm just saying I hope that I'm right so I can do the same thing that I did this week and clip it up and just be like, look, I said exactly how I said this thing was going to play out. That's all I'm saying. I just want to be right.
Of course, we all
but I'm
want to be
hoping
right.
What happens is that Kofi and Xavier go through couples therapy.
Mm.
And
go through. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think what this is, I think this is a fan storyline, not a fan storyline, but this is something to get fans on board that the New Day needs to change because Big E is not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
just make it solidify it.
I think that's what Xavier is struggling with is change. And that he doesn't feel that like, yo, what are you doing bringing in new people and changing things up within the judgment and within the New Day? And I think they need to kind of go through like couples therapy, but I think a lot of it comes down to Xavier realizing that like, you know, it's okay to move forward. It's okay for like the, you know, the New Day to evolve and, you know, bring on a new generation of the New Day. And so maybe Big E is like the therapist in that situation. I don't know, but I just see it as like there's a way to make it seem like that they're going to break up when really it's just it's a storyline for not only Xavier in this place, but for the fans to be like, hey, the New Day's not dead. Just because Big E's not here doesn't mean that the New Day's dead. Because even Big E was like, yo, Odyssey Jones looks like that dude. Props to you. Like he's all supportive of Odyssey Jones. And so a lot of it could be just like, hey, we all know we love the original New Day, but sometimes like we gotta like evolve it. And just because we bring in Odyssey Jones, because if you just bring in Odyssey Jones and call him the New Day, it's like people are not gonna just as a fan, you can be like, that's not the New Day. So you got to do something where it's like, hey, like, how do we make it an emotional storyline to kind of basically say like, hey, he's basically unofficially retired. He ain't coming back. And we as an audience, as a fans, gotta, you know, be one with that. And, you know, be happy about this new evolution of New Day. So that's my future booking. What you think?
No, that's cool. It's just I had a knee-jerk reaction of like when you said couples therapy, because I was trying to remember like which because they've done like like that was even recently, like within the last 5 or 6 years or something, where they've done like I feel like a therapy type of segment before, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember like who like was in that. Oh, it was a no. This is Team Hell No. Remember Team Hell No?
Yeah.
Daniel
Yeah.
Bryan and Kane when they were in they were in a couples therapy or tag team
Yeah.
therapy. So yeah, I could see that for sure. But instead of taking the comedic route, I think that's what it'll be because you got to give it like this is the acting chops. You got to give the acting chops up to like Xavier Woods. That like,
Mhm.
all right, if we're going with that booking, then this is like I feel like that's really gonna make him um a star out of that if we are doing a new dynamic on it. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is also to make Odyssey Jones, but I think this is more so just a rub for him. You know, just working with Xavier
Yeah.
and Kofi. But the last thing would be like, I also had the thought. I was like, Odyssey Jones could come out of this looking like a massive heel, but then again, I think that's just that same energy is the energy they want us to give to Karrion Cross.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's going to be felt more on Odyssey Jones, just because, like you said, we have an emotional connection to Big E where we don't have to the Final Testament, and they're trying to siphon off of that. So that's where my mind goes. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And again, if we
interesting.
don't believe Karrion Cross in the Judgment Day of like not the Judgment Day, but the Final Testament of like what they're saying, and now it feels like it's working. And it's
Hmm.
like not only were you wrong, they came back stronger than ever.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like at once they were just two people, and you're like, oh, I could split those two. Now they added another person, and now you got 3-on-3 match. AOP and Karrion Cross versus New Day and well, the New Day.
Yeah.
But again, it also just seems like I can see Xavier turning on him, Kofi being like, "What? How could I?" And like again, like if Xavier turns on Kofi, it's understandable. Who's the heel in
Yeah.
that situation?
Hmm.
It's Kofi because like you've made Kofi this oblivious doof that doesn't realize he's stepping over his friend. And so I'm like, yeah, Xavier has all the right to turn on him. So
For
like,
sure.
who's the heel in that situation?
It's still
So
going to
that's
be
where I'm like, it
Xavier
doesn't really
though,
make
because
sense.
I think it'll be a bubbling over situation we're looking at, where they lose the match or something, lose a significant match or something. Maybe he takes the loss, but it's obviously going to be due to chemistry issues. But once again, if we were to believe this storyline, then like, or not believe it, but like just follow it, and like you said, Xavier's been doing great. He's going to be the heel, obviously, because still that reaction to like him, you know, hitting Kofi with like a kendo stick or something in the back, whatever it is going to be like, oh no, from the fans' reaction, in the stadium, like without a doubt, like that you don't
For
want that.
Xavier to be a heel in this situation, Kofi at some point needs to acknowledge that he's been a dick.
You said he would need to acknowledge that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, well yeah, if we're to be smart about it, sure. But right now,
like if he doesn't acknowledge it, and then Xavier just
yeah, if he's
snaps
just
and then turns,
oblivious, yeah,
and it's just like, yeah, you have all the right to snap on Kofi like that because he's been a
but we're
complete dick for like months to you, an oblivious dick to you for months. And so if Kofi at some point is like, yo, I've looked back at the tape, I've seen the messages on social media, and they're right. I have not been a good friend to you the last few months. I've stepped over you. I've taken the mic. I've made decisions without consulting you, and I feel bad for you as a friend. And then they go out and they lose that 6-man tag to the Final Testament, and then Xavier snaps. Then Xavier is a heel. But up until that point, like at this moment right now, like is Xavier really the bad guy? Other than
no,
like he turned on his friend.
you're talking about nuance right now. That's what you're talking. Because yes, he is still the heel. Yes, he is obviously. So
Okay,
that's
okay,
you're just talking about nuance. I
okay.
understand what you're saying, but that reaction from the crowd they're gonna boo Xavier the second that he does it, regardless of when it happens. Like they just don't want to see it.
He's
You know
gonna
what I
be a
mean?
good
So
heel because when he's playing that saxophone or that trombone as a heel,
yeah.
that that's gonna be fun. So
See, that's peak New Day. See you're pulling at my heartstrings, like just reminding me of that. That's like with Big E and them, like coming out with the unicorn horn strapped to their foreheads. And like, or the WrestleMania entrance when they come out of the Bootio cereal box, that's like one of the best fucking entrances ever, bro. Like, but yeah, I don't want to see. Oh, y'all can't break up. See, like that now. This
That's
is
why
the
I
little
said
kid
they
in me as we're talking
need the
about this.
therapy. They need the therapy. It's a storyline to get us over the fact that Big E is not coming back, and we need a new version of the New Day.
Mm-hmm. But,
New Day Bloodline. New Day Bloodline. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Like eventually, Kofi and Xavier are both gonna have to graduate, and then they're gonna have to get, Javon Evans and someone else to pair with Odyssey Jones, and bam, New Day 3.0, 2.0, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, yeah, that's how we evolved this. New Day never dies. Stay alive.
But yeah, that's what's up. I think we covered that extensively. But also the last thing I had for mid was Rhea, just the whole Judgment Day storyline. I'll just call it that. There you go. That's simpler.
Yeah.
But the Judgment Day storyline being on repeat this week. That's why it's mids. If anything, down this week, just because it's a repeat, week. So I'm willing to say that this is a mid down. But the only reason that it's staying in mid is because at least fighting through like the gallery area is really cool. Whenever they do that, that's always cool.
I miss that, man. Like, there's been a lack of backstage fighting in general that, like, over the last couple of years on WWE television that we haven't got. So it's nice to see that they're using the entire area. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was really cool. But and then it also got made official, mixed tag coming up for between them two also. I
did like the fact that like when Rhea got Dom into the Riptide, like you knew like Liv was gonna come out of nowhere and like pull him out of it, but like you heard the pop that was gonna happen.
Oh yeah, like, that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, when she hits that Riptide on him, it's going to pop. So I'm looking forward to that.
She's like China. We know that she can work with the guys if she wanted to. She's strong enough. Like, so it's like it's very believable that like at one point in some point in the future she will hit Dominic with a Riptide for a 1, 2, 3. It is that devastating of a maneuver, even though it's an ugly finisher in my opinion. But it looks all right. Yeah, but it's impactful, I guess. But it's unique, so that works for her. But either way, it's believable. But yeah, mid down this week, but that's all I got for Raw.
Okay. Let's move next door. Or before we move, I guess, next door, it seems like you got some current event you want to talk about regarding MJF.
Oh yeah, it was just this is super light, but him, I appreciate it just for like the question, or not the question, but the statement that you had a few weeks ago when you were like, I don't like this American Championship bullshit. Like, I'm not sure if he's fucking like if they just added it. You were saying they added another title.
Yeah,
but it's very on the nose. But at least it's like, I mean, it fits his character. He's just a heel. But I called it the all-in dirt sheet, press tour that he went on. But it ain't really a press tour. He just found himself more so in my algorithm with Cultaholic. He did a Cultaholic interview and Wrestle Talk interview. I watched both of them. He was doing just his MJF shtick. So like for me, that was like, I mean, it's cool. It's fusing, or breaking the fourth wall of wrestling. You know what I mean? So I just like that interaction, and for it to be so extended, it's cool. And it definitely solidifies. It's just MJF being an asshole because the whole time and all, I don't know. Did you watch any of this?
I saw that he had those. I saw he did interviews with them, but I didn't watch them.
Okay, if you watch one, then you've seen the other one.
Yeah.
Because the whole time he's like, "What is wrong with your country? Why does it smell like piss and ass?" Like, and he has this, red, white, and blue freaking blazer on. Of course, the championship is displayed. So it's like, okay, yeah, he's just being, in my opinion, like, because he's using fake news now. Also, like, whenever they would bring up, he's a delirious fucking heel. Like, anytime
he's good,
he's like, he's like, I beat Will Ospreay in 58 seconds, easy dub. When we know like that was my fucking primo of the week, and they wrestled for a fucking hour.
Yeah,
and he was like, I'm not sure it went that far. He was like, that's fake news. I don't know where you're getting that from. It was the easiest win of my life. I didn't even break a sweat. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's all it was. But yeah, that was just my little. I appreciated the the work of the gimmick, but
Yeah.
also in this point because I want to believe that he's a cool guy, in real life, and this is just like him
Yeah.
being the gimmick, 100%, like in current day. But it's like he's doing it so well. It's like, man, gimmicks bleed over, or wrestlers want,
Hmm.
creative control, and they want like a lot of the time a little piece of themselves in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is great timing because it makes sense because it was the Olympics. Okay, yeah, we're representing America and it's an election year. So it's
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, that's just makes sense for his gimmick to change. But I'm like, damn, is he talking? This isn't a political podcast, but is he a Trumper? Like that's the only thought that I have because he said fake news and he started
Yeah.
like he used it in both
He knows.
interviews.
Again, he knows.
Yeah,
Like again, I
yeah, I was
think
like, he's just leaning into it.
there's
So
certain characters. It's like my character kind of lends itself to it. Like Gunther lends itself to it. It doesn't
yeah,
necessarily you need to lean into it all the time, but I think MJF has a good balance of it because I saw on Twitter, I think it was JBL's birthday this week.
mhm.
If not, he had commented on like saying like shout out to JBL when he was U.S. champion. I aspire to be some like just giving props to like JBL and like his U.S. championship run, and then JBL gave back flowers to MJF and whatnot. So if you know anything about JBL during that area, just JBL during the JBL era is a sight to behold. So if JBL can get away with it, and JBL is the complete opposite end of the spectrum, even though like
Yeah.
again, I didn't. That was news to me within the last 6 months to a year. I was like, what?
Mhm.
JBL ain't the JBL that I thought. It's
Yeah.
like when you watch like movies with like a white guy playing like a cop or something like that. You're like, damn, bro, like I know they ain't you, but you play that shit a little too good.
Too good. That's all. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like that's all I'm saying. Like, but yeah, it was good character work by him, and that entertained me for that 2 hours, like total time. It was like an hour
All
long
right.
interview each, so it was
He's
good if you
I
watched.
don't like the belt, but I understand the gimmick. And so I do
Yeah,
think he's
that's what
probably going to
matters.
lose at All In because it's like, yeah, fuck American exceptionalism. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so like you're doing it in front of a European crowd. A European guy is going to win the title back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's all I had.
I think if it's just for the past month, I'm fine with it. But as the belt itself, I'm like, I don't get it. But I
Mhm.
get it for a storyline. But if it goes past the storyline and they keep it, I'm like, this is weird. That's weird. But
Nah.
nonetheless, we'll move on and get inside the bodega. NXT. Pretty good show. Pretty good show overall. I'll let you start off.
I'm gonna say that this is a go ahead. Like I had the thought of like Joe Hendry and Ego Page is the future of NXT, but
Mm-hmm.
they're the now of NXT. Obviously, like all Ego is already the champion, and I'm like, we had the conversation 2 weeks ago, like when I was like, yeah, you're a Joe Hendry guy, right? And you were like, yeah, I think so. Like I'm pretty sure that's what
Yeah.
that means. And yeah, so we're already here now. You know what I mean? So I just really appreciated that we're getting like with Trick losing the title to Ethan Page, I feel like it does like sort of like level out NXT. Like now that we're this like long in, I'm just thinking about it. But like that Carmelo Hayes and Ilya Dragunov rivalry for the
Mm-hmm.
NXT title was so great. And using that to like build Trick up and their storyline. And then you have to build that storyline up. And then Trick finally wins the championship. So like that was his, Sami Zayn winning the NXT title or the IC title recently. You know what I'm saying? Like at NXT. So I felt like for him to also be a homegrown project and like built all the way up, it's like,
Yeah.
all right, this is pretty um, difficult to book him off of this, except it's Shawn Michaels and he has a great wrestling mind. That oh yeah, Ego Page, he's heel enough, or his gimmick is that like he thinks he's the best. Obviously, like we forget how he wins it, or I don't forget how he won the title. He takes a trick shot knee and passes out and falls on top of another person in a fatal 4-way while he's unconscious and wins the title. Um, but because of that, and Pete Dunne pulling double duty and like even beating Trick, last week
Mm-hmm.
is I I think that's meant to like just bring Trick down a notch, obviously, and we're just getting a new reshuffling of the top of the board. So like
Yeah.
with Joe Hendry just being in this main event scene, awesome. And I really appreciate that. He's like, yeah, I'm from TNA, but I've already captured your hearts and minds. Hey, think about this in the future. You know what I'm saying? It could be sooner than you think. So, I mean, how long until you feel comfortable putting the NXT title on Joe Hendry? We're just gonna say, like, let's say right now that he's already got on a contract with WWE. We just don't know yet. But yes,
Mhm.
I will give you, obviously, it's the caveat. He is a TNA wrestler right now.
Mhm.
But hey, he's got the NXT bumper now. Doesn't he have the NXT bumper now when he comes up? So that's the kind of fourth wall breaking thing that I was thinking about before, where when he was originally coming out, he had that TNA bumper on the bottom.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah, how long? How long
like
until that?
as far as winning the title,
Yeah,
you can win it right now.
you'd be okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
cool. Okay.
I could think there's a mutual benefit to this from both sides, even if he's not
Hmm.
signed with WWE, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, yo, the title is not in NXT no more.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's on a different company's show. A guy came into your house and took your title. I don't. Will that happen? I don't think so, because we talked about like WWE is not going to let you take a win on them. But I do think Joe Hendry is over enough that, yeah, even if he holds the title for like a month,
Yeah.
I can see it working out.
Okay, that's what's
And then
up.
like,
Because
and then it puts a fire into everybody in NXT to like not jump ahead, but like you just had Wesley, Future Endeavor, his boys who are in TNA.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He attacked Joe Hendry, so you're kind of building this kind of TNA NXT rivalry
Hmm.
where now it's like they just took a major shot and took your title. It was all play when it was like Roxanne, Jordan Grace came in here. She had a good match, but through shenanigans, she ended up losing. Then
Yeah.
Roxanne goes over there, and not Roxanne, Tatum Paxley goes over there, and then she ends up losing to Jordan Grace. So it's
Yeah.
fun when that happens, but like now something monumental happened. Your main title is no longer on your show, or it's on your show, but it ain't on. Is not held by a guy that is employed by you guys technically.
Yeah.
And I think that should put a fire in everybody. You might even get new challengers to come up to be like, yo, I gotta put respect back on the NXT title name. I'm the one that saved NXT.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
maybe this leads into War Games. Maybe we might have 3 War Games matches. Who knows? But
Right.
it seems like War Games, we're getting a lot of group matchups. Because right now we got Joe Hendry and the Rascals
Hmm.
on one side. That's 3. We have Wesley, and we need to figure out 2 other more people that's going to tag with him.
Yeah.
Maybe you might get
Uh,
Obafemi.
Ethan Page. He's not homegrown either. The champion now.
Well, yeah, it's more so of like who's on the NXT side. It's like NXT versus TNA. So it's like
Yeah.
who's NXT gonna put up? We got Wesley, maybe Obafemi, Trick,
Trick. I would say I don't think
Javon
Wesley would
Evans.
even.
I'm putting a lot of
Oh yeah,
black people in
definitely.
this. So.
That's I'm putting a lot of black people. Who else is in there though? Um, Tony D'Angelo.
Tony D'Angelo would be interesting.
He's definitely NXT for sure. Um,
Anybody that wants the title back.
yeah, basically. I see what you're saying.
Basically anybody that wants the title that Joe Hendry has should be fighting for that.
Hmm.
Should be in that War Games match.
But yeah,
But
good
yeah.
segment. But I just do want to say this just because it did lead into my shake was the fact that at the end of that that face off between Ethan Page and Joe Hendry, like you said, Wesley attacks Joe Hendry and
Yeah.
basically gets his time in the ring. And this was my shake. Like, I was like, that explanation doesn't cut it for me. Like, that's all for him. So I felt like that was a nothing segment, honestly.
What was his reasoning again? Because I
Well,
have this future endeavors in the mid because I just like the fact that he just featured endeavored them. Said that like you trying to get WWE shine and stuff like that. I like that he kind of it's a nice little heel tactic. It's a good thing to get you over as a heel. So I kind of like the tactic. As far as the explanation, I don't really care for the explanation. I just like the fact that Wesley's heel. So I'll let you explain the explanation.
no, it was just like I assume it was from weeks ago when he originally turned and he was like, "You left me." At that point, he was yelling and he was like, "You left me for 4 years." You know, he was in NXT by himself, so it's like, all right, but you were North American champion twice, like so, like what are you upset about? You know what I mean? That's why, as I think about it, I'm like, bro, I don't like, like it had something for
he's
me.
at
Like,
the
okay,
bottom,
it's like,
man.
yeah, you feel abandoned. Like, I get it, but I get it because that's him taking out his frustration about not being able to beat Obafemi out on them. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Because that's what he said that already. That he doesn't know where his character goes from here and all this stuff.
he's
His
Booby
boys come
Miles.
back.
What can I do if I can't fight for the North American title no more?
But
well,
yeah,
there's other
like,
titles,
right.
Wesley. There's other titles you can fight for.
Exactly. Like the top one, but
right, go over. You should have try to take the goddamn U.S. title from goddamn Logan Paul. Something.
hey, that would have been a match for sure. That's a fun match. But yeah, that's all. I mean, that was your
like
mid,
I said,
I think, right?
I can understand you not feeling the explanation and putting that in shake. I just like the future endeavors.
Okay,
He
yeah,
literally future endeavors them. That's hilarious. I thought that was hilarious. I guess is this our top match of the show? Obafemi Otis.
yeah, for sure.
We didn't mention Obafemi was at Raw.
Oh yeah.
He was
But he
at
did
Raw,
show
and
up.
you know, Otis kind of sided. You know, he walked past them, and they had a little eye contact and everything. So we got Obafemi versus Otis. Obafemi retained. Open challenge. I think now that we're in the open challenge era of Obafemi, it just means that like this dude is going to be bound for the main roster anytime soon. I mean, he even just made a slight appearance on Raw, is saying something. But somebody else also did that this week. I feel like there was a woman wrestler that did that.
Ooh, was it Julia?
No,
She's on NXT. Yeah,
on SmackDown, I believe. But either way, Obafemi beats Otis. Amazing match. Powerbomb, just feat of strength. Like, obviously, Obafemi, it's in mids for me because, you know, Obafemi was not going to lose the title. But again, like, it just gets you more. If you're not a fan of this dude, there's something wrong with you. So, Obafemi, man, just keep doing what you're doing, champ. You right now, you my top wrestler. Now that Seth is out for an extended period of time. But man, Obafemi, nothing much to say about then that this dude's a beast.
Yeah, absolutely. They are very high on them on the Ringer Wrestling show. You already know.
Yeah,
Shoes was saying the same thing. It's like, bro, can we just like strap a rocket to him on the main roster already? He's so like packaged and ready, like right now. But
yeah,
I fully agree for sure.
I like his
I didn't
little
write
Ric
this
Flair
down.
strut when he comes out.
Yeah, I didn't write this down, but Charlie Dempsey did win the Heritage Cup back.
Yes.
From Tony D'Angelo, which
I
that's
like
been
Charlie
great.
Dempsey.
Like, which that's been great for both of them because like Tony D'Angelo to me is such a good character. I feel like he is so like. I think it's honestly, well, I'm not gonna say it's a crime, but it's surprising, like with how good his character is and how well produced he is, that he hasn't been NXT champion yet.
Yeah,
Like he's like you said in that War Games, like TNA versus NXT match. If that was to happen, like there's a real argument for him to be captain AEW or captain NXT. Shit, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So. But yeah, I've enjoyed this rivalry for the both of them. Like they make me care about the Heritage Cup, honestly. Like the matches are always dope as shit. Even though every time I come on here and I'm like, I forget the rules, but whatever, you know, it's just like No, it's a pinfall. It's like multiple pinfall, and if you get like 2 in a row, you win or some shit. But yeah,
Yeah, it's like
also good match.
it's like
Yeah,
2 out of 3 falls or something like that with a 3-minute time limit, something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Like first to 2 falls with a 3-minute time limit on each match or something like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean Tony D'Angelo, I agree with you on the Heritage Cup. Like I'm familiar with Tony D'Angelo. I've seen a lot of the segments. The character work, I get it. It does come off a little cheesy, a little too
Yeah.
cheesy, cheesy. But I think when you mix in that, like, he's actually really good in the ring. It's
Hmm.
like I have another belt for. I gave it to somebody else, but you could literally give this belt to him probably anytime. It's the Shaq. I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game award title belt,
Yeah.
the Choni, because
Absolutely.
like that's what, especially this Heritage Cup title run, at least for me, has done for Tony D'Angelo. I'm like, oh, okay, like I think if you just take the character work by itself, it's like it comes off cheesy. But I think when you take the character work, mix it in with his actual like good in ring work ability, it's like okay, yeah, this dude is someone to be taken seriously. And I think to that point where you talk about the NXT TNA War Games match, if he's part of that squad on the NXT side, and let's say that he gets the pin on Joe Hendry,
Hmm.
it's like yeah, he should get first dibs at getting a title shot,
Yeah.
at
Well,
bringing that
yeah.
NXT
That
title,
fits your booking. Yeah.
that NXT title shot back home, that NXT title back home.
I would want it to be him.
Bring it back
Yeah.
to the family, as he would say. You know what I'm saying? So like
But, hmm.
that's how I book it. Like the NXT War Games match with TNA, it needs to have anybody that's like I want to be the person to bring the title back to TNA. That's to
Yeah.
NXT.
Yeah.
So if that's Trick, that's I guess you could take Wesley out of that, but that's Trick. That's Tony D'Angelo.
Hmm.
That's Obafemi. That's maybe Ethan Page.
I could, yeah. My other thought while we were talking about that is like, he's all ego. He does whatever the fuck he wants. And as I told you before, his boy Josh Alexander is still on TNA, and he could fucking abdicate or just the fucking NXT altogether and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go fuck with my homie over here and
Hey,
like reunite the North. You
that'll
know
be
what I'm
the
saying?
intriguing part. If you got 5 guys on a team that all believe that they should be the one to bring back the NXT championship back home, and they know that whoever gets that pinfall in that match is going to be first in line to get that title match against Joe Hendry,
Hmm.
it's gonna make it hard for them to be a cohesive team.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
not only does Ethan Page have an ego, but Trick got an ego.
Hmm.
Oh, but Femi got an ego. You know what I'm saying? Who were we just talking about? No, we were just talking about that said Debbie in that match.
Oh, yeah, Joe Hendry, ego,
Joe
uh,
Henry be on the other side. We were talking
yeah,
about
Tony
somebody else.
D'Angelo,
Tony
Trick.
D'Angelo, that's where it was. That's like
Oh, okay.
all of those guys have egos on that side. So for NXT to be able to be on a 5-man squad with everybody feeling like they should be the one to bring it back home,
Hmm.
that's an interesting storyline. But it's all dependent on Joe Henry winning this title. And I think it's a smart call that you called out that like he is getting the NXT bumper rather than the TNA bumper. And he did
Hmm.
say, "I'm going to be on NXT television a lot longer than you imagine." So
Yeah.
I'm not. I think he can win. I think he can win the title fairly soon. But I guess that also gets into my shake, because there is, I believe, a triple threat match. Pete Dunne, uh, was it Pete Dunne, Joe Hendry, and Wesley? There's a triple threat match coming up that like
Hmm.
I'm like, is Pete Dunne future NXT champion? That's a question.
Oh,
It's a long
okay. I
pause.
thought you were.
I'm like, it's a question.
I thought it was rhetorical. I'm gonna say
No, that's a
no.
question.
I'm gonna say no. No.
Because I'm
I
like, if
mean,
you're in a match between like, if you're in a triple threat contenders match between what Pete Dunne, Wesley, and I believe Joe Hendry, it's like okay, Joe and Wes have some issues that it kind of leaves Pete Dunne open to win that match.
yeah.
And if Pete Dunne is champion, doesn't that give more incentive for Trick Williams to get his look back? It's like you
Oh,
lost
for
to Pete Dunne
sure.
twice, but now if you really wanted to get your win back, it's like you beat him as champion and get the title back
Hmm.
against a main roster guy. That again, it just props up Trick. So there's a lot of different ways that we can kind of go about that. I do think in the long term booking, I do like to see Trick. I mean, I like to see Joe Hendry win the TNA title and basically steal it from NXT for a month or two.
Yeah.
And then have that NXT title on TNA.
Hmm. No, that would be huge if that happened.
And then
Obviously,
then you ask
that's
somebody, do you believe in Joe Hendry? It's like, how can you not believe in Joe Hendry when he went into somebody else's company, not just anybody's company, the monopoly
yeah.
of wrestling, and took one of their titles? When has that ever happened?
No, ever. No, it's never happened.
You know what I'm
Not
saying?
that I can
So,
remember,
like,
not in our lifetime. So
that would be
yeah,
insane. That would
that'd
be
be
insane.
huge, for sure.
And they're moving to CW in like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, it is that soon, isn't it?
So
I just keep thinking about Netflix Raw next year. You know what I'm saying?
SmackDown's moving to USA in like 2 weeks. All this is happening in like a couple weeks, man. Like SmackDown and NXT, and then Raw. Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, their deal technically ends up in October with USA, but like there was that like 3-month gap between October and January of like, where are we hosting Raw? And it's like, oh, well, we got to come up with like a short-term deal with USA so we can keep it on there for like the 3 months that we don't have a contract. So it's happening quick. It's happening quick. Last thing for the bodega. We have this both as Shake, but Chase U, NXT champions, tag team champions. Shout outs to them. I thought it was a great match. And, this is hopefully this is their second time winning a title. But, it almost feels like their first. So
Yeah. At the risk of stepping on my champion of the week, I'm gonna not say anything about it now, other than it was a great win. But
all right.
I'm glad Chase U won.
Okay. We'll leave it at that, and we'll pick that back up when we get to Saturday. Let's move over next door to the coffee shop of AEW Dynamite. And I am pretty light this week on the coffee shop. I thought it's a pretty good show overall. Like, I thought it was AEW just gives you good wrestling. I'm looking for more so for like the stories. And so I don't think there was any story that like really pushed me over the edge that like I was like, okay, yeah, this is something that stood out to me. But Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong triple threat match, I thought was awesome. And again, it's just another reason of why like Orange Cassidy, dude, is like, that's the dude. Like, again, when we talk about like what AEW has going well for them, it's Orange Cassidy, it's Tony Storm, it's MJF, and Swerve. But like those are the things that you need to build upon.
Yeah.
So shout out to all of them, but then Orange Cassidy, that dude's so cool. he's like the white Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm like, you so fucking cool, bro.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. That's the whole thing, and that's cool. It's cool to not care. Yeah, you're right, man. I got the primo this week for sure. That shit was funny. You texted me about that, and you saw the clip, right? It's exactly how I described it in the notion of Mariah May's vignette. She cut Tony Storm, which I will say, like, when AEW puts the effort in, like the production for like vignettes like that shit hits, like just like WWE's does. Like, and I think that like anytime you put Mariah May like in those pre-produced segments, it's like a 5 out of 5, for me. It's just her like in the moment stuff that's a little bit more shaky. On the mic, she's still like really good, but it's just, I feel like you got to be so emphatic or you have to have more energy as a heel, like especially like on the mic. You know what I mean? So, that just needs some slight work, in my opinion. But it was great. Like the writing on this vignette was great. Like she was like, "Oh, don't worry, we're both gonna die. I just get to write your eulogy." I was like, "Hey, that's a bar." I was like, "That's a bar." She flipped that on her, talking about, "Oh, are you prepared to die?" She was like, "Yeah." There was another I can't remember, but that was the one that stuck with me the most. And then directly after that, we directly cut to her former Stardom tag team partner, Emi Shirakawa's cleavage. Because
Yeah.
God, as what's homeboy's name? Flagrant Andrew Scholes, as he would say,
Yeah.
boy, had the heavies out, bro. I'm telling you, I was just like, God dang. But I mean, she's extending herself in this storyline also, which is just by proxy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just she challenged Tony Storm for the title, lost, and that whole story was like, oh, can she, uh, not drive a wedge between Tony and Mariah, which obviously that was the whole plan. That was part of Mariah's plan any goddamn way. But just saying she doesn't know how to feel about it and everything, and she doesn't want anybody to get hurt. So I was like, this is professional wrestling, babe. Somebody's about to, like, they're going to kill each other. They've been telling us this whole time. And yes, it's the
Yeah.
best women's rivalry they've ever done, like in AEW.
They're doing
But
a good job with the Mariah May stuff. Like, again, Tony Storm
very good.
she's doing well as well, but I do think like that is a storyline that I like out of the matches that I'm intrigued by, like I'm definitely, if that's not one, it's definitely like 1B, maybe 2 behind like somewhere between Swerve and Danielson.
Mhm.
Mariah May and Tony Storm is right up there with like the most intriguing matches that I have for All In coming up.
For sure. Yeah, that's what I had. Oh yeah, my mid. Yeah, let's talk about Swerve. I wrote this is the most heel Swerve that he's
Mm-hmm.
been since winning the title, that's how I prefer my Swerve anyway. Um, like very violent.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's fine. I say that because MJF, he rarely does this, but in those, the only thing that was significant about those interviews, also by the way, is that he was in character, but he did put over Swerve in that point in time, like uh building towards that, like a possible title match in the future, which I would love to
Yeah.
see, because he was just saying how um Swerve, he was like just so like when you back him into a corner, he just gets extremely violent. And
Yeah.
we've seen that. And he was like, but guess what? It's the same thing for me. So he's like, he just wants to pick the bones of whoever's left with the title, is what MJF was saying. But that comes to my mind. But after watching the house call to the Wheeler Yuta, what, 3
Mm-hmm.
times to the side of the head? Like, god damn, he was beating the shit out of that poor kid. I was like, oh yeah, he was just flopping around, like, oh man. Stealing, the Blackpool Combat Club, the grapple and stomping that Wheeler Yuta and Danielson both do, stealing that from him, doing that to Yuta.
Yeah.
Um, so much that they've got, they end the match by referee stoppage, going to MJF's point of how violent he is. And as Danielson is checking on him, he catches a house call to the side of the dome, like attacks him from the back. And I'm like, you bastard. I love you, Swerve. Kick his fucking head in. But yeah, send him off to pasture. That's what I want anyway. But that's mid
Yeah.
rising for me.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that you had wrote that this is the most heel Swerve has been since being champ, and it makes me think it's like, are they leaning into a heel turn with Swerve? And this is why I have this in the episode title. Is this the end for Bryan Danielson? Because like we know, like technically his AEW contract was up at the beginning of the month of August, and so technically this probably is his last match. And if it is his last match, like would it wait for it to be to go out with Swerve not only defeating Bryan Danielson and like making him retire, but like doing it in such a brutal way that like you can't do but nothing but hate this guy because Daniel Bryan is pretty much the white Rey Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
So like, do you think Daniel Bryan ends up
That's
finally
all right.
holding AEW title, or is it like this is the end for Daniel Bryan and Swerve is about to put several nails into that coffin in a very brutal way come next week?
Not all right. I think the best way to do it personally, I want Swerve to retire Danielson. I even believed he would win this all the way up until that segment. I think that segment honestly swung me. Just the fact that he did, like, I guess, revert to being more heelish, or he's working heel. Um, and you can build it up. Like they already even pulled the trigger. Like the thing is that they pulled the trigger too early with like the whole appreciating his career and stuff like that. The whole like video montage they had with All American Rejects or whoever was playing in it, and it's like I felt like the combination of all that is like pushing me towards Danielson winning, and I'm like, it's fine. That does make sense if he is going to actually like retire at least for the time being.
Yeah.
Because the best way to do that would be to win and then you can come out the next day and lay it down. You know what I'm saying? And then guess what AEW loves is a fucking tournament. So there you go. You know what I mean? Right now, yeah, if I was a betting man, it's literally 50.1 Danielson, 49.9 Swerve I got right now.
Okay.
Although I want Swerve to win, but
okay, it's gonna be interesting. Like, it's always. Do you see a storyline for Danielson afterwards? He wins the title. Like, what's his story?
well, that's the thing is that he said if he wins that he's going to retire. So, or no, if he wins, he's not going to retire. Actually, that's why I said that was like confusing. But I think his story is already being built by Swerve, where it's like he's been the one saying like, "Hey, keep the promise to your family." You know what I'm saying? So he's actually doing that kind of work for him, I think, or maintaining that in the front of our memory. You know what I'm saying? Because Danielson said that a while back. So,
Do you think Danielson loses, but then pulls a Leo from Wolf on Wall Street?
Which is a
you remember from like Leo and Wolf on Wall Street when he was like, "I'm not fucking leaving.
Which part?
I'm not fucking leaving."
Oh yeah, okay. I mean,
that's the paid for.
I would hope. I mean, I would like. That's the thing is that like they said this on Ringer Wrestling show is that also like Ric Flair ruined this like wrestling retirement for all wrestlers. You know what I'm saying? Like just being that old and like having the last match and the last match. And then even the last match, like
Mick
literally
Foley,
Mick
Foley did it before him. Terry Funk did the exact same thing. It ain't just Ric Flair.
Well, he's the most recent and the oldest. That's why I say that. But yeah, he's not the only one. But that's why it's hard to believe, you know, that he is going to retire. Because what I would believe is that he's retiring and he's keeping the promise to his family, right? But that just gives you an out. Because you can be like, oh, well, Bree said it's all right. Or I talked to my daughter and she said, I like it when you wrestle.
Yeah, I mean, even if he loses, I could see him coming back in months.
Yeah, literally. Like, give him 6 months off to heal and get his nervous system together or whatever it is.
Go farm and shit, like, you know.
Yeah. So that's what that return would be. I can definitely see that. But I would hope that, I mean, because it's got to feel retired. Like, for him to feel retired, you got to see him in, like, drinking beer. Like, I got to see the pot belly. You know what I'm saying?
He's got to graduate.
I got to know you're
not
training.
That's what I say. He's got to graduate. Like, right now, you're just, like, an elder statesman on the main roster. And I need you to get to that Jeff Jarrett level where, like, you're just literally just, like, a legend.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Like a Legends contract. Yeah, I got
you know what I'm saying. Like, that's the same thing with Chris Jericho. It's like Chris Jericho, if he was on a Legends contract, like Jeff Jarrett or like, you know, Jake the Snake or whoever one of these old guys that be coming in, perfect. But if you hear just like any normal dude, like on a regular active roster, it's like, all right, bro. Like,
I mean, Danielson is one of the best wrestlers ever. Danielson's one of the best wrestlers ever.
Let's just come and go, bro.
I'm just.
Jared Rice is one of the best receivers of all time.
I'm just saying, you're trying to put him out to pasture like it's not injury based. Like he's not old. Like Daniel Bryan is not. Or
Dude's
shit,
nearly 50.
Bryan Danielson is not nearly 50. Go ahead and tell me how old he is.
43.
I would exactly. He's got time. He's even got. Yeah, I was just saying, even if like we were to just give him like an extra 3 years, like it's got to feel that long. I think it's got to be like 3 years you're retired for it to feel that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's not quite there on Jericho's level yet, but I do think from a health level, it's just like, all right, yeah, dude.
Yeah,
like,
that's what ages him is his injuries. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, from a wrestling fan breaking the fourth wall, breaking kayfabe, it's like you don't want this guy to break his neck. The same thing with Edge. Like Edge was legitimately retired. That's why when Edge came back, that was fucking huge. Like Edge was gone for how long? 6, 7, 8,
like 6 years, 8 years, yeah, like that.
I don't know how long, but yeah, it's got to be over like 4 or 5 for sure for you to feel retired. But I hope he does. Because I mean, that would be him putting over, like that would be the biggest thing ever for Swerve. That's even more establishing.
Do you think Swerve needs not a refresh, but I guess not a refresh, but at least a little bit of an energy boost? You think
I guess I can see that.
I don't want to say stale, but if you see has it plateaued, and we kind of need something to kind of like bring up the levels again.
Personally, don't think so, but I can see how people would think that, because he's more so like floating from like it's rivalry of the week kind of thing, or rivalry of the pay-per-view cycle. You know what I'm saying, kind of thing, where. Like just the length of his title run it's been long enough for him to be a legit champion, and I can see how people would want him to drop it, but I don't think he needs the boost, but it would give exactly like you're saying, like more juice to the reign, basically, and more juice like establishing him like legitimately. I think honestly, it probably, I mean, MJF is in like the international championship picture right now, but I could see MJF winning it back off of Swerve. I think that's a rivalry I want to get into. Like I want a storied rivalry between those two, but that's my future booking for like next year, like next 6 months type of shit.
Yeah, we'll see how they get to that, because they've before MJF left, that's literally who the guy he was calling out. So
literally, like we were on the road, and then MJF got hurt. So,
is there anything else we wanted to talk about at the coffee shop before we pop over to on this week?
2 things. I'm gonna say this quickly. Mercedes Moné beat Hikaru Shida. One of the best, or probably the best AEW like women's champion ever right now. She took the worst moneymaker, and then the moneymaker is so convoluted, like as a setup and a finisher, so it just looked really bad. So that's a net negative. But that was the first thing, and the second thing, if you haven't watched the promo segment backstage between Claudio and Continental Champion.
I saw some of that. Who was it again? Okada. Yeah, I saw
Okada.
Some of that.
Yeah, no, just because like as quickly as like, or as long as Okada's been here, his promo skills have improved dramatically. Like, his English, like in that one, it's so much better because like bitch has just become his like crutch word. That's like his catchphrase right now. Just calling people bitches because he can't speak English that well. But in this one, he does like a whole fucking promo, and like Claudio puts him over and stuff, and like, oh, it's gonna be an honor, but I'm coming back with that title and all this stuff. And he puts him over, like he's like, I know you're tough and all that shit, but then he just ends it, bitch. So I thought it was great, but those are 2, I guess, off-brand shakes right there.
Yeah, no worries, all good. Yeah, I enjoy that. Yeah, I saw some of the promo between Claudio and Okada. It was cool. It was cool. I found it funny that they both had on like the same gray suit. Like, y'all just shop next to each other as well. Shit. So overall, good conversation for AEW this week. They got a big show next week. We'll definitely be doing that a preview for that, and we'll try to get through that long ass card.
Yeah, right.
However long that takes. So. Let's move over to Thursday, and we got a stacked week of the Book of Wrestling. Let's play the music. And I'll say, rather than how I was doing it before, so we probably will have a little bit more of a eventful Thursday as far as like calling out what's happening. Well, what happened this week in the book of wrestling. So I'll start off on an order of date. God damn this mouse. August 13. I don't know why I said October. August 13, 1994 was the first ever ECW Hardcore Haven. Took place in Philadelphia. Terry Funk and Cactus Jack fought to a no contest in the main event after the tag team of Public Enemy interfered. This event saw one of the most iconic moments in 90s wrestling when audience threw dozens of folding chairs into the ring, burying Public Enemy at the end of the show. So I don't know if you looked at the clip, but obviously you've seen the clip through osmosis through life. But yes, that happened this week.
Yeah. Well, that's an iconic moment for sure. Yeah, I didn't watch the clip, but yeah, I'm very aware of it. You don't even need to play it. I've seen it before. It's
Everybody
like the band
knows
is.
that clip.
This is like the band is on the field for wrestling fans,
especially like hardcore wrestling fans as well. So
yeah.
Let's move on to the next day. Oh, I keep doing wrong things. I was like, why is there two Tozawa stuff here? But it's really just one. So yes, moving on October. I keep saying October. August 14th, 2017. So Akira Tozawa wins gold. Yep. Akira Tozawa defeated Neville, now known as Pac, to capture his first Cruiserweight Championship. He dropped the title to Neville a mere 6 days later at SummerSlam. Now, this match, I found the clip of this match. Not a bad match. And it's like, bruh, Tozawa, he's, getting some match. He was in that tornado match that we talked about earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess tag team with Otis. This is his only, outside of the 24/7 championship, which really can't count. This is the only real title Tozawa's ever held. So, can Tozawa win the tag team titles with Otis?
Oh yeah, for sure. Of course he can. I got faith. I got faith.
Will he? I guess is what I'm asking.
I mean, that depends on the timeline you're asking for. I think they can for sure. In his future, I think it depends on like how long Alpha Academy is around. Like, are you cooked on Alpha Academy yet?
That's why I asked him. I'm like, if you're going with Alpha Academy, I'm like, at some point, you got to drop the Gableness of it.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm like, are you going to come up with a new name?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at with Alpha Academy. I'm like, if you're going to keep calling yourself Alpha Academy, it seems like some Stockholm syndrome with you just not wanting to let Chad Gable away. And if you you really want to get him away, you got to call yourself something other than Alpha Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't come up with that. He came up with that. Now, if they came up with that and then he latched and then he joined the group, fine. But that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I think the only other way you could do it is if the Creeds are already the champions, and then that's an obvious storyline. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just between those two. So that's the only other way to do it. But yeah, I can see him like having to change it.
He can run. He doesn't need to be a comedic act. He can show what he got on the ring.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe we even get a Cruiserweight title back, though. I don't know if we have enough people to qualify for that title.
We definitely do. That's what NXT is. NXT is just the guys who are too small to be classic. No. Yeah, that's why everybody's so high on Oba Femi, because
they all come up to the main roster.
Yeah, and Carmelo Hayes right now would be Cruiserweight champion right now. Like, he's in that Cruiserweight size, bro.
Okay, are you going to say Pete Dunne is a Cruiserweight?
He actually is. He's the Bruiserweight. That's his gimmick. He's
Cruiserweight,
a more vicious.
Cruiserweight.
Yes, that's the whole thing.
Those are different classes. Those are different weight classes.
The Bruiserweight is a made-up class. That's a gimmick. Bruiserweight is made up.
We're taking too much time on this. We're taking too much time on this. But you say Tozawa can win, but it's going to take some time. I think they can have him. They can have Tozawa and Otis can win the titles the same way The Miz and R-Truth just did.
Yeah.
Hold it for 2 months and then drop it to the Creeds. So.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on in this wrestling week of history, on this week, August 16, 2001, the SmackDown Fist debuts. And I actually found
The
the
best,
actual intro
the best
for
TV
that
show,
episode.
the best stage ever. I love the
Yeah,
SmackDown Fist. Like that's
yeah.
the best one ever. Like even with the pay-per-views and shit, like just seeing it normally, I fucking love that.
Yeah, I actually found the actual video clip because thanks to the internet, somebody posted it of that episode that it debuted. Um, iconic SmackDown. SmackDown I used to love when SmackDown used to start because the way the little pyros used to come down and then it just kind of used to blow up,
Hmm.
just perfect. And then you add the fist. The fist is like you said, iconic. Like you can't go
Hmm.
wrong with the fist. I actually remember the episode before this when they had the old set. The way they wrote off the old set was Rhino speared Jericho through the back of the set.
Hmm. Okay.
And then the next week we get the new SmackDown Fist. So a couple weeks, it's dope like that. But yes, most iconic set probably of all time.
Hell yeah. Love it.
August 17th, 2018. Not 2018. August 17, 2014. Welcome to Suplex City, bitch. Hey, Brock
Hmm.
Lesnar probably puts on my favorite match of his of all time. Probably one of my favorite SummerSlam matches of all time, period. Because I remember watching this live, and as soon as he started to dominate, which was like literally just like the 3 seconds into the match, and he just kept suplexing him, I was like, thank God. Let's
Yeah.
go. Sometimes we just need that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think John Cena knew what it was at the time. Everybody was on a very split on the Cena of let's go Cena, Cena sucks chance and things of that nature. And it's like, is this dude ever gonna turn heel? This dude is Superman. This dude is invincible. That to just see that this was no contest and ushered in a new phrase.
Hmm.
Iconic. I loved it. It's at 16 suplexes and an F5 later. We had a new
And
to the company.
yeah, I would say also we weren't even split. The majority, the loud majority, was like Cena was cooked already. Like that was so like uh just the same thing. We went through the Super Cena era and we knew exactly what it was every time he came out. Like
Yeah.
we got to be real. That's why that's an amazing moment because it's like, yeah, beat his ass. Or like if
Yes.
you're not gonna fucking do a heel turn, then beat his ass. Like
Yes. Like
I'm tired of
destroy
Cena
this
at this
man.
point.
Seriously, when
That's
I was
why
so
it's
happy.
iconic for real.
I was
Yeah, that's
so happy
awesome.
when this match happened. So I still love that match. I still think about that match all the time. So
Oh yeah.
great time. Great time. And finally, our last one. This is actually tomorrow on Sunday. But August 18th, 2013, the rise of the Authority and the Yes Movement. And you could fact check me on the Yes Movement aspect because obviously we still had people doing Yes chants on this,
Mhm.
but I think that was more in line of just like, a crowd reaction thing, a callback thing. I think at this point is when we're at really establishing that like Daniel Bryan, as they would say, is a B plus,
Yeah.
wrestler. And
Mhm.
I have the WWE provided one, but I think if you look at the second clip that I posted here, I think I could pretty much share it because it is fan
Yeah.
recorded. This one was really dope because this was actually like recorded there in that moment. And you see how everything's kind of playing out. Cena's giving him his props. They're all saying like, "Oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Oh, it seems good." They got confetti coming out here. They really selling that this show is over. They got the pyro going off.
Mhm.
The best part in this video is when this happens. Oh wait, he's already out. So yeah, this couple is watching it and they're like, "Oh, let's get us out in the video." It show's over, and then it's like, "I hear voices in my head." It's like, bro, oh, what a moment! What a moment! And then you see Triple H pedigree, RKO, 1, 2, 3. Daniel Bryan holds the title for about 25 seconds.
Yeah, basically.
But it leads us
Awful.
into one of the most iconic moments in wrestling history. Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, Not winning once, winning twice, and becoming world champion.
Hmm.
Iconic. What say you?
What do you mean? What do I say? Once it gets into that
I
category,
mean,
it's
yeah,
iconic.
I just don't
Of
want to
course,
have
it's
it leave me
iconic.
just me talking. Like you're just like,
Yeah,
yep, I'm
yeah,
like, yeah,
it
say
is.
something, nigga.
Uh, Man, really, yeah, the image that just stays with me is like from that moment is just how sinister the look was on Randy's face, like as he's walking down, like so calmly, because like all of it is like such a good turn, just because it's like obviously Triple H and Randy, they got so much history back to Evolution and stuff. It's like he comes out there so smooth, and it's like, yep, the whole plan, exactly the way that we determined it. You know what I mean? So
I'm glad you
like
brought
just
up
no effort,
evolution.
and he was proud, like when he raised that championship, and
Yeah,
Triple H raised his hand. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what I think about when I think about that moment. Is like, oh, Randy was like, no, it's my time. Like you ain't you like it does go into the authority, like you saying, like, oh, you're just a B plus. Like that's
yeah.
why Triple H is there, but it's like, yeah, the smoothness and like how calm he was and restrained. It's like this bastard.
I thought I added this, but I guess this is the one that I deleted because I thought it was a duplicate when I had Tozawa on there. But we have one more that I forgot to mention. I'm glad you brought up the
Mm.
evolution. But literally, August 16,
Oh.
2004, Triple H thumbs downs Randy Orton after winning
Mm.
the championship.
There you
So
go.
obviously, iconic moment in that sense as well. So big moments this week. We'll go through this again next week. Like I said, I have a good source now for these wrestling history facts that it kind of it lists it out for like the rest of the entire year. So I'm like, there's no need for me to like have to scurry and try to find shit. So
Yeah.
I think also August 16th, I could be wrong. I don't want to bring the damper down, but we're gonna lead into some sad news, I guess, when we get to Friday. But I believe August 16, some week during this week, we had 3 wrestlers pass away on the same day.
Mm.
Different years, obviously, but
Yeah.
Crush passed away, I believe, the 16th. Lance Cade as well passed away on the 16th. And then most recently, Natty's father, Jim Danville Neidhart, passed away as well.
Mm.
So weird how it just so happened to be that day. And I believe now on the 16th as well, to move over to Friday, we had another passing. Alpha Anawai, part of the other half of the Wild Samoans, who Sika, who passed away just a couple of months ago, also passed away yesterday on Friday. His son is Lance Anawai. He has a bunch of brothers as well. He's uncles to Roman Reigns. Like
Yeah.
he iconic member of wrestling in the bloodline. Sad to see that, both the Wild Samoans pass away within 2 months of each other. Almost reminds me of Carrie Ann Fisher and
Hmm.
and her daughter. Was that Carrie Ann Fisher? Who's
I
Leia?
think so. Yeah.
Because Leia, like her daughter died, and then like Leia died like 3 days later.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's a very real thing, like dying from heartbreak. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, because that's his brother. You know what I'm saying? Afa and Sika, like, they're the ones who like ride and died together. So really, at this point, it's just prayers for Anna White family. They got each other. So it's just when we think about wrestling, like obviously Roman is the top of that family now, but there's so many of them, and you just uh prayers for them because it's like, yeah, Roman just came back, so that sucks that like his dad and his uncle both pass away. But that's also the Usos, that's Tamina, that's all of them. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's a whole
That's
family,
Nia
man.
Jax, like you know what I mean? So
They still have to
yeah,
go out and put on a show
exactly.
with like
But
all the family connections and things of that nature, like that Ulafau. As we can
mhm,
probably just jump into SmackDown and get into the boutique. That Ulafau is meaningful, I mean, that the Wild Samoans gave him that. You know what I'm saying? They gave him that necklace. And so to see Roman put it on last night, he picked it up the week before. This week he put it on, and you felt like a sense of like, calmness kind of come over him right before Jacob Fatu comes out and finally puts hands on Roman Reigns. The bloodline jump him. And I predicted this for our SmackDown for when we go into next week, but it happened a week early. Roman got put through a table. So now I need to readjust my predictions.
Yeah, just a
as
week
far
off.
as what is going to happen on SmackDown for when we are live in Washington D.C. next week. But I have Roman being put through a table as a rising mid, maybe flat mid, just for the fact that like Roman hasn't said anything yet. It's kind of been the same thing for the last 3 weeks. So while we did get him putting the Ulafal on, we did get Jacob putting hands on him. It's kind of been the same thing. So I'm really hoping next week when we're there live that we get some action, some words from Roman.
Yeah. I'll say this was almost primo for me, just because the significant, like the fact that they finally put the Ulafal over, like the significance of it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like Solo put words to it, actually, like saying in the segment, like, oh, if he takes this from me, this is what it's all about. You know, he's tribal chief and all this stuff. And it's like, because we know the tribal chief character was also tied up in the storyline was dominance as champion. And then it became, all right, so is it about being champion, or is you know, being tribal chief about being champion so you can provide for the family, or is it, you know, a generational, you know, bestowed honor, which obviously we got that answer finally now, which is, it's a generationally bestowed honor. So we can have this rivalry away from the title. And that's just like, that just made the Ulafal just as big as the title to me, honestly. Yeah. Like, so I felt like that was extremely important just to have that like exposition and give us that, like, I don't think we needed the visual of Roman putting it on yet, but we know that's what he's doing because he hasn't said anything yet, right? Yeah. So that's probably the only thing that he's here for. But yeah, that's why it's mid rising. But yeah, it was that was the most important part to me, was actually just the exposition of it. No, so that was just the most important part.
My question is, what is a tribal chief without a tribe?
That sounds like a riddle.
Well, I mean, he calls himself the original tribal chief. Cool. You were chief, but like, where's your tribe? And so, kind of like what we're talking about here, what I said is like, Roman is going to need some backup. And so, if he's going to need some backup, like, he's got some work to do. He's got some apologizing to do. Maybe you got Jimmy in your back pocket, but like, right now, you by yourself. You know, you could take him out, but at some point you're going to get ganged up on. And these guys are very, you know, you could get Jimmy back. You can get Sammy back. You can get Jay back, and you can get the original bloodline back. Is the original bloodline strong enough, or do you need to bring in somebody to be savage, just as savage enough to take out Jacob? Like, either way, he needs some backup, and it requires him to apologize and somehow get Sammy and Jay back.
I mean, I know. I wonder if the character of Roman would do that, though. Like, I understand where you're going with it, but it's like, oh, what is he without the tribe? But it's like, but we know it's the family. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is the wrestling family. We just went through a whole like history lesson with, you know, The Rock and everything leading up to Mania. So yeah, he might be alone now, but like, I could see him being like, or him being beaten down like again, and then just out of love for the family type of shit, like Jimmy returns. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather have you be tribal chief than them. The Tongans aren't even part of the family, so that's why it's also blasphemous if you think about it like that, for real. Anyway, they not Anawais or part of that family. So yeah, that's where I think it's slightly more realistic. But yeah, I think that would be something to see Roman apologize or whatever that looks like. Like that.
I mean, Jimmy doesn't have a problem with Roman. At least because he was on his side at WrestleMania. He was at that side at WrestleMania. So a lot of it comes down to Jay and Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's not Sammy. Maybe it's The Rock. Who knows? But
yeah.
it seems like even if you were to get to the original bloodline back, is the original bloodline? I guess Jacob Fatu is the biggest X factor because nobody's really tripping over the Tonga twins.
No, not at all.
So it's like, do you have enough to take? Is main event Jay Uso enough to take out Jacob Fatu?
Boy, that's a booking now. If you book him to beat Jacob, that would be a rocket for him too, right? I mean, he's already at the main event, but I mean, right now, hell nah. Jacob is decapitating Jay.
Jacob, I feel like Jacob's taking out both the Usos in a handicap match.
Bruh, are you kidding me? Like that Jimmy got ring rust. He's been sitting on the fucking couch.
Maybe it's Jacob versus The Rock.
Yeah, right. Because when you said that he's alone right now, that's who I thought of first. I didn't think about Jimmy or Jay. I thought of The Rock because that was the last person that was actually on his side. You know what I'm saying? So The Rock is obviously
Jimmy took
a nuclear
spear from his brother at WrestleMania to help retain. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm curious to see what happens next week when we do go there because again, I thought he was going to get put through the table next week.
Mm-hmm.
That happened this week. So now I got to do a whole round of recalculating to figure out what the hell is going to happen next week. I don't know. I'm hoping they were in fucking Orlando. So, okay, he's pretty much home. If this dude is not if he's not here in DC next week, we got some problems, WWE.
That's my thought, honestly, because they just put him through a table. Next week is probably the brag week of the bloodline. Solo's bloodline. That's what it is. And now, you put him on the shelf, let's say you put him on the shelf effectively, for that week, or that's that point in time where he's doing the recruiting. And then when he pops back up, he got reinforcements, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't think we see an apology. I don't think we see an apology come out of Roman's mouth. That sounds crazy for the character.
Roman's apologized before.
I mean, if he would open his mouth, maybe right now this version of Roman is a mute. He ain't saying nothing, so he definitely ain't apologizing.
Okay,
so
facts.
You got to say something. But
facts. But any more thoughts on Roman before we move on?
Nah. That's it. We good on that.
I totally even forgot my goddamn Reggie. I'm not gonna forget this, but I'll leave it to the Saturday. But this goes back to Monday. Sorry, but the other thing I wanted to call out is for Rising Mids is Tiffany not wanting to bow to Nia during her celebration and stuff like that. So the overall segment was pretty standard for someone celebrating their titles and stuff. But I thought it was interesting that Nia was kind of playing heelish. She's playing that dominant queen role and stuff like that. But when she asked Tiffany to bow, and then Tiffany was like, "Oh, but that's why I brought out Pretty Deadly, so they can sing this song for you. And then right after we do that song, then we'll all bow together and stuff like that. Because I believe men should bow too, right?" And it's I get in a sense, you're trying to make Nia the heel in this because people, I guess, don't want to see Tiffany bow. I'm not gonna lie, I'm be like, you better bow down to your black queen, you white she-devil.
I'm saying.
You better bow down to your black queen in Nia Jax. I don't want to hear this lip talking. So right now, Tiffany's still the heel. If she doesn't bow down to Nia has all the right to whoop that ass.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That was my mid. Also, there's multiple parts to this, however, because part of this segment was Reggie, was my Reggie.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny immediately how she's the explanation of oh, that's why I brought out Pretty Deadly. It's bitch, those two things don't connect at all. That explanation makes zero sense if you don't bow. That was my thought. So yeah, I'm on your side too. You better fucking bow for your queen. But just funny enough for that wrinkle to be there just long enough for my Reggie of the week, the goddamn show tune part, which I do think is mid, rising just for the fact that they've been writing this musical for 4 months. We've seen them writing this musical for the longest time. And even last week they remind us again. And it's or they actually get commissioned to like, yeah, write the song for Naya. And it's like, bruh, the way that they were, I saw what they were going for, but they weren't synced up,
Yeah,
in vocals and the music at all. So like that's why
I
it's
like the
Reggie.
attempt. I like
But
the attempt, but yeah,
yeah,
they needed a little bit. They needed to practice that a little bit more before getting on
yeah,
stage.
yeah, that was more rehearsal time for sure. And
Yeah,
like that part when Naya, like they both turn around and Naya slaps them both on the ass. And I was like,
yeah.
I had to rewatch that. And I was like, is that what happened? Like I wasn't sure, but uh yeah, that was Reggie as fuck, dog.
How did you
That
feel
like
about
blew me.
Meechin coming out and whooping everybody's ass with the kendo stick?
I mean, for me, it's just if I was to make her champion of the week, it would be the Hunger Games I volunteer as tribute to get my ass squashed by Nia Jax. That's all that means. That's what I would think. She's just gonna get crushed next week. That's what that means.
Yeah, it should
Not
be
a
a good
chance. Like if
match,
she
but
wins, I mean, you got to extend like pay-per-view cycles and stuff, or like the rivalry for pay-per-view cycle. So it's like they're clearly building to the next one. Like they're not going to get in the ring together, but either way, like whenever they do, she's going to get her ass beat. That's
yeah,
my thought. That's why she
there's
came in
definitely
there
going
with
to be
that
a
kendo stick.
protector if like Tiffany Stratton like teases to cash in and just trying to keep
Mm,
Nia on her toes. It's like, hey, you never know.
right.
Princess might want to dethrone the queen. So
Hmm.
interesting stuff in that sense. Do you have anything else you want to talk about on SmackDown? We had Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes for a third time.
Yeah, with Carmelo winning this time.
Yeah. Naomi taking more L's again.
That was another. I should have put that also in Reggie, or I was thinking about it. That's like the real Reggie of the week, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, because I'm still not sure what Blair Davenport is doing. Like the only thing they've ever given her is that like, oh, we have a slight relationship with the Unholy Union, the tag team champions right now.
Yeah.
That's like the only significant. I don't know how long she's been there, but like I know her
2 weeks.
literally as yeah. But she's only been on TV for 2 weeks.
Oh, I thought you meant like the relationship with like Blair Davenport.
Oh yeah. That's only been 2 weeks. I haven't met in total for WWE, but that proves my point is that like I think it's definitely been at least like feel like 4 months. I mean, and granted, in the grand scheme of WWE, that's not a long time at all for us to not see somebody. Obviously, there's people
Yeah.
that be gone. Like Odyssey Jones was drafted, and now we just now seeing him a whole year and a half later. So, but either way, this is just like her first significant like or that's her first significant like role she played in anything was just being the friend of the Unholy Union. So if this is y'all establishing Blair Davenport, then fine. But I don't feel like it is, especially when it comes at the expense of Naomi. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So that's also why it's Reggie. I mean, we can sit here and talk for days about how they don't respect Naomi enough, and all she do is stack up
I'm
L's.
hoping
That's
that
all
paycheck is
the
good.
writing.
That's all I'm hoping. That paycheck is good.
Dang, yeah, yeah, you know it is. You know it is.
Nah, I mean for her to come back and take L's
Yeah.
continuously, nah, that check better be fat. Because at
Hmm.
least give
Oh,
me
and
something. You don't even got a storyline. You just out here just doing matches to take L's to people that who knows if they're gonna pop off or not.
yeah,
So it's a little disappointing. But again, that check's gotta be looking nice.
yeah.
Street Profits, they beat DIY, so we'll be seeing them next week on against the Bloodline, I think, for tag matches, tag titles. Don't think
That'd
that's
be
gonna work
nice.
out well.
No, not for them. But I would love to see if like Jacob could still compete because the first thing that he did when he came out there, he super kicked with the boot still on. He still had the cast on his foot, and he super kicked him
Yeah.
in the face. So I'm like, are we gonna see him be doing backflips? Like that would be a crazy way to put him over. Like let's just say that Jacob actually isn't hurt at all right now, but he's just working with this boot. Can you imagine what that does for his character? Like he's just
Mhm.
still doing all the same shit, and he clearly has a broken fucking ankle, at least in kayfabe. It's like holy shit, like that'd be nuts.
Yeah. I got a quick early preview of next week's SmackDown. Says next week's program is Naomi, Jade, and Bianca versus Alba Fry, Isla Dawn, and Blair Davenport. as well as
Mm-hmm.
LA Knight versus Santos Escobar for the U.S. Championship. Additionally, the Street Profits will challenge the Bloodline for the Tag Team Championships next week after winning an Eliminator bout this week. We also get Nia Jax versus Michin for the Women's Championship as announced backstage segment, but the match was not included in a match thrown down by Graves and Barrett at the end of the broadcast for next week. So, looks like we got 3 title matches and a 6-man. And whatever's going to happen with Cody, Kevin, and Bloodline. So, eventful episode. The last one before they go to Berlin. And you know how I feel about those go home shows in the pay-per-view city. They're usually a wash. So I feel like we might have a really good show next week. And we'll be going with our friend Tim Jones, who hasn't watched wrestling in like who knows how long. So we got a lot of prepping and prepping to do for him to get him at least somewhat aware of what's happening. And so he's not just a chicken with his head cut off. But
Hold on, I gotta interrupt because I just peeped in the chat. Hold on, we got a chat.
Yeah.
Man's in the black shirt, fine as hell. She talking about me. Okay, activist prism. I don't know who that is. I swear on my mama, but hey, I'm gonna see about you. All right. I'm gonna see about you.
I'll let your wife know about you getting hit on by random women on the internet. Let's see how she feels about that.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, we still got one person watching us. We doing it for somebody. Activists, you still there? Let us know. Either way, let's move on. The last thing on SmackDown was KO versus Grayson Waller, which that was just more so for the setup angle because the Idiot of the Year award, freaking Austin Theory comes down to like help his boy. Like he doesn't know he's getting set up by him, but he comes down to beat him up, and Cody comes down for the save. And for whatever reason, I guess like people don't know their own like wrist strength specifically when they're standing outside of the ring, because this continues to happen over and over where people slide things into the ring and they just throw it too far. Because Cody basically comes in for the save and throws his title across the ring, like to the other side of the ring, like right where Kevin is. And they, beat them both down. And we have that moment of like, oh, Cody's goes to pick up the title and KO snatches the title up, building that tension. Like we're going to believe that he's going to win. He's not going to win. But either way, just to have that visual, make us believe it a little bit more. It's fine.
I think if anything, maybe this is getting Kevin Owens into a heel turn, because we know what Kevin Owens does. He turns on his friends. If anybody, like they say on the Masked Man show, Kevin Owens, I called out last week for Randy and Finn for remembering. Kevin Owens has been doing that. That is part of his character. This is the only dude that actually watches film, and he'd be like, "Yo, what are we talking about here?
Yeah,
you can't be doing that." And so, like, if you know Kevin Owens, he turns on his friends.
I remember the Festival of Friendship, how it was destroyed by Kevin Owens.
So
he
again,
destroyed
like,
my poor goat.
Kevin, it seems like he's been a good soldier. You kind of throw him in whenever you need him, but he's kind of in limbo. Not much direction for Kevin. So hey, you want to? He's not gonna win this time. But if you could take him seriously and make him turn and give him like something that's like a little bit with some juice on it, this might be the time to turn Kevin heel.
I think there's already juice on him. Like you said, like I would disagree and say that he does have direction. It's like, it's a team concept thing. It's like, he's just playing Scotty right now. Like his role is to, or not even his role, but his story also is like advancing the more major story of Cody Rhodes. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like he's forgotten about or anything. I do agree that it's not like necessarily focused on him or his goals, but it was for a certain point in time. Like, he was down with just fighting the bloodline anyway, because he's like, they fucked me up so much. So that's also within character of him just being vengeful. You know what I mean? So I would just disagree with that. I do think he does have a direction, but like, yeah, if they were to like, maybe he turns on him at, Bash of Berlin, he gets frustrated or whatever the hell, you can stretch it out until like, Bad Blood, Survivor Series, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, and yeah, you're right to point that out. Yeah, he turns on his friends. So yeah, if you need to like, go ahead and like let's make a blood feud for the next 3 months. I can see that for sure. And now we got heel Kevin Owens. I wouldn't be completely upset at that. I think we also like, as wrestling fans are always like, I think the phrase turn heel is like kind of the crutch. Instead of like turning face, we always say heel turn versus like face turn. So I'm gonna be more present of mind and thinking about heels that need to turn face also, because I feel like if we continue to turn people heel at like the rate that we just booked these off the top of our heads, I'm sure our cards would be like 80% heels. Like, you know what I mean?
That's why I say, like, does Xavier Woods need to turn heel, or is he just going to, realize that, like, hey, it's me just not dealing with the fact that Big E's not coming back.
Yeah.
And things are changing.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna keep that in mind. Of like, how many people are we turning heel? But like, so
we definitely gotta keep a track.
It's a hard, like, that's a hard target to hit. Like hitting that perfect tweener where you're just like, you're just a well-written character that can do what you want and you understand like both sides of it, where it's like, I think KO right now, he's obviously a face. Like KO doesn't hit that mark. KO is either a face or a heel, but he can't have good writing. Like where I would say Swerve is a tweener. You know what I'm saying? He's just like more of a floating, like amoebic, type of character. But that's all. And that was it for SmackDown. For real.
Right. I do want to take a step back before we get into Saturday, and I need to take a step back and jump all the way back to Raw, because I'm not going to get it through another episode and not forget this. But I had some Reggie for Raw that I forgot to call out, and it's the same Reggie that I had last week. And at this point, if I did it last week, if he does it one more time, I'm just going to have to just rename my personal Reggies. I'm just going to have to rename my Reggie after him. But Reggie for Raw, really, Adam Pearce? What the fuck do you do? What do you do? So last week, I chastised him for not coming out or putting any authority of Bronson Reed. I said last week, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to be suspended, no nothing. He's going to be on TV next week. What do we see? We see Bronson Reed walk into goddamn Adam Pearce's office and tell him, basically blackmail him for a match, and if not, he's going to cause more problems. First of all, why is he there? Why are you there? You should be suspended. But Adam Pearce ends up giving him a match with The Miz. He ends up winning that match. He ends up destroying R-Truth. He comes out. He tells him to stop. He doesn't stop. He walks out. Adam Pearce is literally standing right next to him. He walks out with Bronson Reed. And Bronson Reed goes back in and hits R-Truth with two more. With two more bonsai drops. Tsunamis.
Yeah.
So again, my question is like, what power does he have? What do you do? You don't even make matches, bro. Like, other people make matches. They be like, and then you be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Then what do you do? You can't suspend them. You can't do nothing. So, like, what do you do? What is your thing? And and again, I got to keep the same energy for Nick Aldis, but I didn't appreciate Michin getting jumped by Nia. And then he's like, Nia, get inside. And then just like looks at Michin and just like leaves her. He doesn't like say, you okay? Like, this is your talent. So Nick Aldis, that's 2. Maybe 1.5.
Yeah.
Getting close to 2. But right now, if Adam Pearce this coming Monday, does another poor job at his job, because I'm the driver of this bandwagon. I'm saying that Adam Pearce is a terrible GM. If he does something idiotic next week, I'm officially renaming my Reggie placement as the GM Adam Pearce Reggie Award. He will get that title until somebody else takes that. He will get the branding sponsorship of Reggie.
Yeah.
Reggie
the branding sponsorship.
General Adam Pearce.
of sticks and twigs.
Yeah, it's like Jesus fucking Christ. Like, so I didn't want to get away from that. That Adam Pearce, what do you do?
Yeah.
Please. Because apparently you just gonna let Bronson Reed just destroy your whole show. And he's gonna tell it to your face that he's gonna destroy your show, and you're not gonna do nothing. So I don't get it. But that's my Raw rant. We could jump back to Saturday.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have some making up to do because last week I did not have a champion of the week, so I'm doubling up this week so to make up for my missed one last week. So the one for last week I have is the Shaq. I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game. Title belt to Jesse Ventura. Because obviously we saw Hulk Hogan was at the Republican National Convention giving his endorsement to Trump and stuff like that. And then like the following week after that, Jesse was making a little press run, just basically telling him how Trump is terrible and Hulk Hogan is a terrible person and how he basically went behind his back to stop him from having wrestlers unionize back in the 80s, and he snitched to Vince. And so that's how Vince ended up, letting go Jesse Ventura at the time. So he has a big disdain for Jesse for Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, okay, Jesse. Like I figured Jesse was a Republican and stuff like that. Had to look up his record. Independent.
No, governor, yeah.
He's an independent. And I was like, okay, Jesse, let's go. So again,
the 90s was a crazy time, man.
Respect. I thought he was like on the Arnold Schwarzenegger type of tip. But like no, Jesse Ventura seems like he's really like at least about the people, and not in it for like any type of political gain. It's like, nah, bro. Like I'm like a veteran, and I've seen that like what I went there is to help the people here be able to just live freely, and not have them kind of ostracized by whatever rules and government laws and stuff like that. So, Jesse Ventura. Respect. I was not familiar with your game, sir.
Yeah. It's interesting because as you were saying that near the end, I was like, oh yeah, he was governor, or I knew he was, governor of Minnesota.
Governor of Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I go was like, there's an alternate universe where he like, if he's, 20 years younger or however, I don't know how old he is now, but he would be running for vice president because Tim Walz is, governor of Minnesota. Yeah. So like there's an alternate universe somewhere that's not too far off because he already got the governor of Minnesota part down too. So it's like
he probably could have won president. Because again, it's like no different. If Trump was able to do it, then Jesse could have done it.
Oh, for sure.
So let's get into your champion of the week for this week.
Yeah, my champion of the week specifically is Ridge Holland, and he's getting the Muse Uprising title, which is just a song, but I brought the lyrics up because we don't want to get strucken down. But just the hook. You remember this song, right? Back when we were in college, this is like
I need to listen to
huge. It. Yeah, it has a catchy hook to it, but they will not force us. They will stop degrading us. They will not control us. We will be victorious. Down! That goes to Ridge Holland for winning his first ever title in WWE at all as part of Chase U.
Yeah.
I love Chase U. I have loved this like on-screen university / coaching situation, going in and out of debt, going like collecting donations from people. Because this is like as a unit, like this is Andre Chase. Chase U is established with Andre Chase. This is his second time being champion, but this is Ridge Holland's first ever. And my thought immediately was, I love the group, reaction. All of Chase U, jumps in the ring, but Ridge Holland in that moment, like I think that was literally like him crying and stuff. Like you can't see his face; he's covering his face and stuff, but I'm pretty sure he broke down at that point in time. And I felt like really, really good for him because we know the history of Ridge Holland, and like I can only imagine what he deals with, like for the more vicious wrestling fans especially when Big E got hurt. You know what I mean? And like all the shit that like he carries that on his conscience. That's a grown
Yeah.
fucking man out there. So it's like for him to like rehab the character or whatever and just deal with all this bullshit like in the real world and like channel that into this. I felt like Uprising the song, like those bars specifically are for him for sure. So
Shout
that's
out.
why he gets the title award.
Shout out to Rich Holland. Yeah, no, obviously, yeah. Shooting and, just being, taking it outside of wrestling. Like, yeah, man, shout out to Rich. I don't know. I haven't talked to him or anything, obviously, because we're just regular people, but I haven't like listened to an interview or anything like that. So I don't have like any kind of like human context, but you can imagine like nobody wants anything to happen to what happened to Big E or any
Exactly.
situation to happen like that. And so for people to be vicious like that is just ridiculous. So to see him come out of this, getting better, both in the ring and then getting his physical and his mental, healthier again, being comfortable to be able to keep doing what he, loves to do in wrestling and then end up winning a title at the end of it. Shout out to him. From like an actual like storyline perspective, I'm a little curious to see because like, last week when it was announced that he had got him and Andre Chase the tag team title match, that the other guys in the squad were like, yo, what? Hey, how you just gonna pass up over us? And so I was surprised that like they actually won and there wasn't any kind of like animosity, but I do think it's probably like, it's more in line of like, yo, Ridge did his time and he did his he did his work that he deserves the spot. And so
Yeah.
maybe they do pick up that little nugget that they had in the storyline, or maybe that was just kind of like a fleeting moment. But nonetheless, like shout out to Rich Holland.
Yeah. All right, what do you got for your champion?
My last one, and I struggle with this, so I'm gonna try to be better with coming up with a better champion of the week. But it's the not me, it's you title belt to Dominic Mysterio for giving a simple but compelling argument for why he turned on Rhea. And it was basically, yo, she lets me eat my nuggies. She lets me play my video games. She lets me be me. And like, doesn't that pretty much every guy wants? It's just like, yeah, I just want to eat my chicken nuggets, play my video games, and just be a guy and just hang out and not have to deal with bullshit. And so when you take his reasoning, it's like, yeah, I can understand that, Dominic. I don't blame you. If I had a woman that was just like, yo, here's all the nuggies, here's the new video game console with all the brand new games, and you can just like sit on the couch and just relax while like, I'm just gonna I'm gonna do my thing, and I'm like, yeah, cool. All right, bet. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So
No, I'll say surface level, yeah, definitely understand. But like I was as I think about like I think it was Wrestle Talk that said this, but it's like it's funny the verbiage in that, and I'm glad you hit it on the nose. Is like he says she lets me, which that's just like like speaking to his mentality, of still being like, oh, I need permission. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a grown man that went to fucking prison. Like, that's your whole character. So, yeah, it's funny. It's funny how, just a hot blonde can just bring a guy to his knees, though. I guess.
If it's not that it's not me, it's you title belt. The other thing that I would give it is that that Alonzo Mourning meme when he's like sitting on the bench and he's like, okay, yeah, because they were like getting blown out.
Yeah, that's what they're getting their ass beat. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and he's just like he's just sitting there. He's like, oh well.
He goes through like the 5 stages of grief all at the same time. Like in like 10 seconds, you see it. Yeah,
that's pretty much like as soon as I hear. As soon as I hear him say like, "Oh yeah, she lets me eat my nuggies and play my video games," I'm like, "Bruh, what?" But it's like, the logic does make sense. So
exactly.
That's the title belt for Dominic Mysterio this week. I'll try to be better next week on coming up with something a little bit more creative. But
well, that was it. Honestly, it's the Alonzo Mourning. It's the Alonzo.
Yeah, it's the Alonzo Mourning.
Yeah. And Chicken Nuggies is crazy activist, by the way. She said Chicken Nuggies is crazy.
Yeah, they actually do call it chicken nuggies. And she gives them like a whole like 50 plate of chicken nuggets. So it's wild. It's wild. You need to watch it. But yes, we are at the end of the show. And you got anything you looking forward to next week? besides what we got for SmackDown in person?
Yeah, All In. Obviously, that's the biggest thing next week, and I'm looking forward to find out who this activist join us again next week. Coming up in
Yes.
here, I'm looking forward to that. Our next
well,
episode.
yes, we'll see if we have a returning viewer. Hopefully, and they
Yeah.
hopefully they come. Hopefully they arrive on time because they definitely just came in for like the last 30 minutes. So I'm gonna need you
Yeah,
to
30, 45 minutes.
I'm gonna need you activists to be here on time when this podcast starts at 11
That's
o'clock on
wild.
Saturdays.
That's wild, making demands to somebody who just like is literally our first viewer and stayed with us an extended period of time. You're making demands to this person. Like, you better be like,
Hey.
what? No, how about this, activists? Just tell your friends about us. Get your friends to subscribe. All right, that's even better.
Yes, like,
And if
subscribe,
they
and
don't
do
want to
all of
do
the
that,
social media stuff that we don't like to
yeah,
do.
yep. You can follow us on Instagram at the Wrestling Reup. You can send an email to us at the Wrestling Reup at gmail.com, or on TikTok. We are also at the Wrestling Reup.
I'm never coming back. Sure you won't. Sure you will. Yeah, for my things that I'm looking forward to next week, Pete Dunne. I'm into that storyline. And obviously Bloodline stuff. And all in. But it's all in for the main events of my opinion, Swerve and the Tony Storm match. So we got some stuff coming up this week. But I think that will do it for us.
All right.
Any last words? No,
That's it. I gave
good?
you the socials. Come back, activists. Tell your friends. Like and subscribe, everybody.
Nice. All right. A non-graceful exit. We out. Peace.
Peace.